Hey guys, tonight we're creeping through a moonlight-drenched park where history sleeps fitfully beneath your feet. Picture this: crumbling stone walls older than your grandma's fruitcake, air thick with herbs, that of outlived empires. You're not just taking a stroll, you're breathing in 8 centuries of conquest, rosemary, and questionable medieval hygiene. The Norman keep looms ahead, its battlements chewed by time into crooked teeth. That's not just weathered limestone, it's 1,100 tons of were closed energy. Fun fact: these keeps weren't fancy palaces. Think drafty bachelor pads for knights who considered chainmail formal wear. Your shoes crunch gravel each step louder than William the Conqueror's third favorite siege engine. Crisp air slaps your cheeks sage, and lavender wrestle your nose into submission. Notice the iron gate. Its hinges haven't budged since a leaner of Aquitaine's skincare routine involved snail, slime, and prayer. Historians still argue whether medieval herb gardens prioritized medicine or just covered up that sweet, sweet plague stench. You lean closer. The gate's rust patterns look suspiciously like a knight flipping you off. That's your cue to hit like and subscribe, unless you're into disappointing, imaginary, sentient gates. Seriously though, if these stories help you unwind, consider supporting the channel. Helps me afford better microphones than whatever's recording those faint tapping sounds behind the ivy. Before you get comfy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Throw your location and local time in the comments. Let's map where everyone's pretending to work while listening to this. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your palm meets cold iron. It hums like a fridge holding something that shouldn't be there. Beyond the bars, moonlight paints time patches silver. Ever wonder why Normans planted defensive herbs? Rumor says they feared basil-stealing Vikings more than actual raiders. The logic checks out. Those guys would literally fight over a soggy cracker. A flash of movement, your head swivels. Just a barn owl's shadow, probably. Those stones have seen worse. In 1096, this keep hosted a siege resolved by somebody's uncle accidentally setting the grain store ablaze. True story. Now rosemary grows where archers once pissed off the ramparts. Evolution, baby. Wind snakes through arrow slits. It carries a chord that's half whistle, half death rattle. You're following in the steps of monks who brewed mint tea spiked with hallucinogenic henbane. Their kitchen logs mention divine visions and Brother Cedric's explosive diarrhea. Coincidence? Medieval wellness culture says no. Your jacket snags on a bramble. It clings like a ghost toddler craving attention. Ever touched wool dyed with fermented woad? Smells like regret and expired yogurt. Our ancestors wore it daily. Respect. You inhale deeply. Sage smothers the scent of distant traffic. For 5 seconds, it's just you and a falcon's cry echoing off stones, that of absorbed, way too much Macbeth-style drama. Rustles 20 paces left. You freeze, modern brain screaming raccoon, lizard brain whispering dragon. Let's split the difference and blame Henry VII's ghost haunting shrubbery for annulment-related stress. The keep's shadow stretches, gulping the path like spilt ink. Your phone's flashlight stays off. Some mysteries taste better in the dark. That moss under your fingertips. It's been here since Shakespeare's dad traded sheepskin for ale. Crush a leaf. Suddenly, you're an apothecary's apprentice accused of witchcraft. Breathe slower, deeper. Those aren't fireflies, they're glowworms masquerading as fallen stars. Blink, and the Middle Ages rewrite themselves between blinks. Your heel grinds a pebble. It skitters into the dark like a roasted chestnut fleeing the plate. Beside the path, yarrow flowers, huddle warriors, herb, wound cauterizer, Instagrammable backdrop for your ill-advised medieval tick-tock reenactments. The keep's main tower squints down, judging your life choices through arrow-slit eyes. One final thing, that faint clanking, could be a loose shutter or the spectral clatter of armor worn by Sir Reginald Pembleton III. Local lore claims he haunts these walls, searching for his missing nose, lost not in battle, but to an ill-advised game of dagger, chicken, after too much mead. History's gross, folks. The gate groans, or maybe it's your stomach. Either way, night thickens. Rosemary spikes claw at your jeans. Somewhere beyond the wall, a nightjar spins its insected lullaby. You turn path, dissolving into shadow as the first star pricks the sky like a nursemaid's needle finding linen. You stand before the iron gate, its bars twisted into floral patterns, now choked with ivy. Sunlight pushes through the latticework above, dappling your shoes with coin-sized spots of gold. Historians confirm Norman engineers embedded these metal scrolls to deter climbers, turning defense into art centuries before razor wire. Your palm meets rust-pocked iron, the shock of cold lingering, even through summer's warmth. That creak as you push. Original 12th century hinges complaining about overtime, the medieval equivalent of a groaned 5 more minutes. Squinting past the threshold, you spot thyme plants growing sideways from mortar cracks, their purple blooms defying gravity. A faded plaque claims a leaner of Aquitaine once gifted this garden's saffron to defiant nuns, though certain manuscripts hint she actually owed them gambling debts. Bees bob between milkweed and bee balm, their fuzzy bodhisattva buds glowing in the fractured light. You inhale crushed mint from where your heel ground a stray leaf, suddenly understanding why medieval chefs stuffed rotting meat with herbs, masking odors never smelled so divine. The path narrows, forcing you to brush against lavender hedges that stain your jeans with pollen. 3 paces in, a fat bumblebee zips past your ear, its buzz harmonizing with distant lawnmowers from the modern parking lot. Experts think monks cultivated wormwood here to repel evil spirits, its silver leaves still shivering in the breeze like forgotten charms. Your pinky catches on a spider's anchor line, It thrums as the eight-legged engineer repels toward a petunia. Watch your step. That pebble isn't a pebble. Turn it over a clay marble from Tudor times, its once bright glaze smoothed by centuries of mud. Vines snake up the western wall, their leaves flipping to reveal pale undersides like shy showgirls. That honeyed scent, honeysuckle, or is it mock orange? 34 varieties grew here before the Black Death halved the kingdom's gardeners. You kneel to examine foxgloves, their speckled throats perfect for eavesdropping. If you were finger-sized and suicidal, historians still argue whether these beds supplied banquet table garnishes or the castle's more creative poisoners. A ladybug storms your shoelace, treating the white aglet like some unconquered Everest. You grant it merciful passage to the nearest rose hip. Duck under an archway where wisteria chains drape like dusty chandeliers, their purple clusters trembling with each breath you steal. Cotters in chainmail once hung herbs here to dry, rosemary for remembrance, sage for salvation, basil to ward off middle-aged spread. Your thumb rubs a groove worn into the keystone, 7 centuries of apprentices leaning while sharpening shears. The air thickens with camphor from a gnarled bay laurel, its leaves crunching underfoot like ancient parchment. Some claim nightingales nested here during the Wars of the Roses, but all you hear are sparrows debating chip crumbs near the gift shop. Shadows elongate as you round a corner, the ivy lattice now casting Rorschach blots across your arms. Spot a sundial half buried in comfrey, its motto weathered to vulnerant omnes, ultima necat. Cheery, a nearby sign, insists the garden's yew hedges inspired the maze at Hampton Court, though anyone who's gotten lost near the restrooms knows that's flattery. Crush a lemon balm leaf, its citrus burst so sharp you half expect a gin and tonic to materialize. Archaeology nerds whisper about a buried Roman well beneath the parsley patch. City planners laugh it off until the ground gets soggy after rains. Pause where the path splits, one fork leading to a rose arbor, the other to a crumbling wellhead. Your shadow stretches toward the roses, but your feet choose the unknown. Flagstones here tilt at odd angles, like a giant's neglected dental work. Spot something gleaming in the dirt, a 17th century sewing needle oxidized green. Imagine the tailor who dropped it probably swore like a sailor in Middle English. No thimbles in sight, just the hiss of wind through gaps in the keep's walls. They never tell you medieval castles were basically stone colanders. A thorn catches your sleeve as you pass a raspberry thicket, nature's Velcro holding you hostage. Pop a tart berry into your mouth, its sweetness tinged with the bitterness of unwashed history. Someone's initials are carved into an apple tree's trunk. R, a 1382, romantic, unless a stood for Agatha, the castle's notoriously grumpy scullery maid. Wipe juice from your chin, suddenly conscious of being watched. Glance up, a robin judges you from a hawthorn branch. It chirps once, the avian version of seen and archived. Your toe kicks a pebble into the underbrush. It knocks against something hollow. Part the mint stems find a child's wooden top, its paint faded to ghostly pastels. Spin it absently, centuries of friction granted a wobbling dignity. When it finally collapses, the resulting indent in the soil reveals a slivered pottery shard, glazed with that distinct medieval mustard yellow. Pocket your treasures. The past seems eager to offload its knickknacks today. Ahead, sunlight catches a spiderweb stretched between two foxgloves, its dewdrop prisms scattering light like a disco ball for gnomes. The gate's groan still echoes faintly behind you, or is that your stomach protesting the lack of a proper medieval feast? No roasted peacock here, just the earthy musk of compost and chlorophyll. A gnat kamikazes into your eyelash. Further proof nature's wonders include minor annoyances. Step over a tree root that spent 300 years buckling the path, its perseverance almost admirable. Almost. As you turn to leave, a breeze sweeps through, lifting the garden's breath into your lungs. Sage, lavender, damp stone, a whisper of wood smoke from some unseen chimney. For a heartbeat, the parking lot's distant hum fades, and you're just another soul in soft shoes, trailing fingers along time-gnawed walls. Then a cell phone rings obnoxiously in someone's bag. The 21st century, crashing the party like a drunk uncle. You glance back at the ivy-clad gate, its hinges silent now, heavy with the weight of centuries, and maybe a touch of resignation. Moss blankets the limestone blocks, each crevice a miniature valley, cradling raindrops from Cromwell's time. You drag a fingertip across the stone, your skin catching on mineral teeth gnawed by 900 winters. Norman builders sourced this rock from quarries 30 miles north, hauled here by oxen whose bones still tilled nearby fields. Watch your step, that's not a twig. A boar's yellowed tusk protrudes from the soil, last relic of royal hunts, where nobles speared game to impress ladies bored by lute music. Sunlight glints off something lodged in the mortar. Dig it free, a Roman coin blackened by centuries. Emperor Hadrian scowls up at you, his profile eroded into a grumpy potato. Historians still argue whether the Normans knew they'd built over a Saxon marketplace, or just enjoyed the free foundation materials. Toss the coin back. Let tomorrow's tourist have their dopamine hit. The tower's base bulges slightly, a beer gut of masonry from centuries settling into the clay. Press your ear to cool stone, silence, until a faint tap-tap leaks through. Could be pipes, or a 14th century page, boy still rapping for rescue after hiding during hide-and-seek. You smirk, then wonder why the merlins above wear leathery caps. Lean closer, they're lichen, doing their best impersonation of tiny top hats. Someone should tell them the Victorian era ended. Carved grapevines twist up the wall, their stone leaves fused into Rorschach blobs by acid rain. Your thumbnail traces a loop that might have been a tendril or a drunk mason's doodle. Most Most guides claim these symbolized wealth, but rebellious interns whisper about forgotten fertility rites involving wine barrels and questionable choices. A woodlouse parades across Charlemagne's face. If the carving is Charlemagne, could just as easily be Keith from accounts receivable. The scent of wet concrete rises as you pass a repaired section, the air suddenly tasting of school gymnasiums. Rain gutters here are non-existent. Centuries of downpours have sculpted the gravel into miniature canyons. Kick a pebble, it skitters into what's either a medieval drainage ditch or the world's saddest moat. 5 brown snails glue themselves to the wall shells, patterned like muted tie-dye. You name them all Susan, solidarity for creatures carrying homes on their backs. Shade pools at the tower's northeast corner, a chill settling into your collarbones. Touch the limestone here, it's clammy as a fishmonger's handshake. They don't mention this in castles and chivalry TikToks. Find a crudely drawn crown scratched near eye level too low for an adult. Evidence of royal toddlers practicing graffiti. Your phone buzzes. A notification about an Amazon delivery. And for 3 seconds, you're Schrodinger's time traveler. A crack overhead oozes reddish streaks. Iron deposits crying mascara tears since the anarchy. Step back, your heel crunches a seashell fossilized in the stone. 12-year-old, you would have pocketed it. Current you worries about destabilizing national heritage. Let future geologists handle that mess. A gust funnels between towers, whistling through arrow slits that now aim only at oblivious pigeons. 3 crows debate you from a broken chimney pot, their dialect pure Saxon slang. Unwrap a mint, scent jolting your sinuses awake with the fury of a medieval plague doctor's perfume. Laughter echoes, not yours. A tour group rounds the far corner clutching audio guides, their sneakers screeching against gravel. You melt into the shadow of a buttress, inhaling damp air that tastes of secrets and someone's cigarette break. The western face bears scars from roundhead cannonballs, pockmarks filled with mortar that aged into jaundiced scabs. Press your palm where the stone splits, 3 degrees warmer than its neighbors. Urban legend says midday sunlight bakes trapped soldiers' breaths into these cracks, their final curses rising as steam each July. Forbidden to touch, probably. But since when did velvet ropes stop curiosity? Your pinky finds a perfect hole at waist height, the diameter of a long-gone timber beam. Peek inside, nothing but cobwebs and the existential dread of spiders. Rotating displays claim these towers held grain stores, but cellar inventories mention barrels of ardent water that mysteriously evaporated. Imagine hungover sentries blaming mice. A ladybug lands on your wrist, its spots asymmetric. 5 on the left, 3 on the right. N-A-T-U-R-E-S, Chinese letter art installation. Blow gently, it clings like a commuter gripping subway straps. The bug flies toward a cluster of wild strawberries, tiny red pearls studding the rubble. Resist the urge to taste. Centuries of bird feces make excellent fertilizer. Pigeon feathers gather where wall meets earth. Gray quills perfect for rewriting Shakespearean sonnets if you were pretentious enough. Smear lichen between thumb and forefinger. It smolders neon green like radiation in a B-movie. Wipe it on your jeans, instant hipster camouflage. Above, clouds stitch themselves into a quilt that smells suspiciously like impending drizzle. The keep's shadow stretches a sundial you didn't consent to becoming. Your stomach growls. It's either lunchtime or you've developed a sympathetic bond with Henry VII's ghost. One final circuit reveals a stone etched with overlapping initials, WR above AB, each pair separated by decades. Lovers, rivals, co-workers trapped in an endless loop of passive-aggressive wall tagging. The mortar doesn't say. A raindrop splatters your eyebrow, the sky's subtle hint to scram. You retreat toward the herb garden, soles slipping on moss older than your country. Glance back, the towers hunch like chess rooks nursing migraines. Someone's hung a wind chime from an arrow slit, its tinny ping clashing with the weight of history. You debate reporting it to the Heritage Board, then decide some anachronisms deserve their moment. Your pocket still cradles that pottery shard, its edges worn smooth by hands you'll never know. The gates ahead, rusted hinges ready to groan their disapproval of modern footwear. Rain peppers your neck, gentle as a monk's reprimand. For now, the towers keep their riddles, whispering only to swallows nesting where archers once drew breath. Raindrops patter the thyme underfoot, each tiny leaf releasing peppery ghosts of crusaders' foot wraps and monastery soups. You kneel, crushing a sprig between thumb and forefinger, its oils staining your skin like old parchment. Medieval armies packed dried thyme in bandages, their battlefield medics betting on antiseptic properties before germ theory existed. A bumblebee cannonballs into clover, fuzzy legs already dusted with yellow. The garden tilts its face upward, silver-green herbs drinking the drizzle. Your soles stick to alpine strawberries, squashed by last night's hedgehog rave. Some claim sleeping with thyme under your pillow wards off melancholy, though you suspect it's more effective against vampires. Named Greg, a coiled hose lies cracked in the path, its uselessness almost poetic. Marjoram tangles with lemon balm along the border, their feud older than the wars of the roses. Rub a velvety sage leaf, its fuzz clings like cat hair. Historians still argue whether these gardens stocked kitchens or just masked the stench of 1,000 unwashed archers. You pocket a seed pod, its shape suggests a tiny astronaut helmet. Mint creeps between flagstones, rebellious green spikes, cracking the stone's patience. Crush a leaf your fingers smell like discount mojitos. 4 snails glide across a rainwater puddle, their trails intersecting into avant-garde Venn diagrams. One carries a petal on its shell, tiny royalty in a biodegradable crown. The bee returns, this time dive-bombing lavender blooms with the grace of a drunk duke. You count its pollen-smeared legs. 18, 19. The bee lurches skyward before you finish, arithmetic abandoned to afternoon light. Rain slides down your neck, earthy and lukewarm as forgotten bathwater. A crushed rosemary branch oozes resin sticky as superglue from the castle gift shop. They sold it as dragon's blood gumback when plague masks were haute couture. Your nail digs into Thyme's woody stem, splitting it open to reveal amber sap. Beeswax, herbal steam, iron cauldrons, your 3 seconds from founding a medieval MLM scheme. Someone planted chives among the stones, their purple pom-poms nodding like bobblehead scholars. Pluck a flower, taste its oniony betrayal. Not terrible. A brown spider repels from your earlobe emergency evacuation via silk parachute. You freeze, mutually respecting each other's personal space. The path loops past a depression in the soil, ancient root cellar, or Viking nap pit. 12 ants march in formation, carrying a moth wing twice their size. Teamwork makes the dream work, or the appetizer. Your shadow stretches, morphed into a stretched-out Gumby by the low sun. Lavender spikes sway, releasing sleep-tinged perfume that softens the keep's sharp silhouette. Break off a dried stalk. It crumbles like a love letter from 1347. 2 ladybugs mount a Thyme fortress, their spot war invisible to the human eye. The bee buzzes your knee, whether as threat or flirtation remains unclear. Mud seeps into your shoelaces, cold and insistent as a tax collector. Herbalist manuscripts swore Thyme tea could cure timidity, but you'd need industrial quantities for your last dental checkup. A raindrop plinks into your collar, nature's targeted harassment. The bee zigzags toward the compost heap, its flight path the scribble of a toddler's crayon. Wood sorrel folds its leaves, feigning death until the sun returns. You mimic it, squinting at the clouds through rain-spiked eyelashes. The herb garden hums, a living thing digesting centuries of whispered recipes and spilled wine. Your socks squelch left foot, now marinating in puddle broth. Thyme's whispers rise, crushed under your steps like overlapping confessions. You could lie here, let moss stitch your outline into the soil, but the gate creaks. Time to abandon the bee to its pollen heist. Though part of you hopes it steals the whole damn garden, the gate groans behind you its protest, slicing through the bee's drowsy symphony. Ahead, a tilted brass gnomon rises like a weather vane's lazy cousin, casting a shadow that never quite reaches. XII. Medieval stonemasons placed these in every monastery courtyard, miniature sun gods for monks racing prayer schedules. Lichen creeps across Roman numerals, turning III into a fuzzy green caterpillar. You crouch, fingertips brushing the sundial's base. Rain pools in the etched letters, XVIII Apriles, MDCX, April 18th, 1610. Someone loved that date enough to carve it during spring showers, their chisel slipping on slick stone. Historians still argue whether these markers measured prayer hours or just gave gardeners an excuse to yell it's lunch o'clock. Tarnish models the bronze, lichen colonies, mapping continents unseen by 16th century eyes. A ladybug traverses the gnomons slope its journey from VIII to IX, lasting 3 breaths. You smell ozone, the storm flexing its muscles behind wool-gray clouds. 14th century peasants probably cursed this thing, its uselessness, during English drizzle, rivaling a screen door on a submarine. A chip mars the VII, lichen spilling out like bad green caulk. Tudor gardeners supposedly planted sundials near rosemary, believing its scent sharpened Thyme's edges. Doesn't help now, your watch died 3 herb beds back, victim of a puddle ambush. The shadow twitches, as if the sun itself can't commit to this performance. You trace the motto circling the rim: HORASNON NUMERO NICI SCRENAS. I only count the sunny hours. Cute, if you ignore how it gaslights everyone during monsoon season. Rain beads on the gnomon, sliding down its spine to pool where VII should be. 4 snails hold a summit meeting in the basin, diplomats, under tiny umbrella sprouts. Iron stain streaks the stone centuries of runoff from the keep's rusty gutters. Scholars found a 13th century doodle in a monk's journal, a sundial complaining cloudy again. Send ale. Your nail picks at lichen, revealing a hidden W carved beside IX. William, Whaleren, some long dead hand, declaring ownership over a slice of sunlight. A raindrop hits the gnomon's tip, shattering into a starburst that drips onto VII. You imagine the carver, leather apron damp, squinting at clouds, while his apprentice mutters about hourly rates. The dial's shadow stretches, pretending to reach IV through sheer theatricality. Someone glued a gum wrapper to the base 21st century graffiti, battling 400 years of patina. The Latin motto stains your palm green lichens revenge for disturbed real estate. Wags in the 1600s called sundials hopper humpers for how users bent double to read them. Your back protests, confirming the joke's expiration date hasn't budged. 3 mushrooms erupt by the base, their caps beaded with rain like miniature bullseyes. Wind riffles the gnomon's edge, humming a note that vibrates your molars. Tudor timekeeping was so lax. This thing's margin of error could have swallowed a whole feast day. You press your ear to cold bronze, half expecting to hear grandfather clock tinnitus. Nothing, just rain's a rhythmic patter and a sparrow's scoff from the yew tree. Lichen crumbles under your thumb, earthy and faintly sour, like matcha spilled on a library book. Artisans once mixed crushed sundial bronze into paints, believing it captured sunlight's ghost. Your phone buzzes, a modern hour chiming in your pocket, but you let the ancient lie. Sprigs of wild garlic nod nearby, their scent sharpening as dusk pretends it's not eavesdropping. The gnomon's shadow finally touches XII, 2 hours late and grinning about it. You snap a photo, the glare off wet bronze, burning a temporary sunspot into your retina. Some claim sundials hoard stolen minutes, trading them to fairies for good weather. Judging by that anemic shadow, the fairies are pissed. Rain drums the motto again, blurring the V into a green Rorschach blob. 16th century poets compared sundials to widows, always mourning the light. You pocket a fallen oak gall, its bitterness, a better timekeeper than this rusted metaphor. 3 more droplets hit the XIII, their splash patterns spelling secrets in a language of ripples. The gnomon grows warm under your palm, residual heat from a day it barely acknowledged. You walk backward, watching its shadow stretch after you, a sundial's version of wait, come back. The path swallows your footsteps, its mud already erasing the 10 minutes you wasted here. Or was it 20? The gnomon smirks, its secret safe for another 4 centuries. The lavender hits you first, a purple wave rolling over the sundil's stubborn silence. Rows of spikes bend like courtiers bowing to some scent-driven monarch, their all-bathed leaves shimmering in the fading light. Monks once stuffed these blooms into mattresses, medieval Ambien for snoring novices. You inhale deep, the air turns velvet, and suddenly understand why Tudor laundresses hid sachets in their cleavage. Distant bells toll, muffled woolen clangs that sink into the haze. Each step releases more perfume, the plants exacting tribute through crushed blossoms underfoot. A brown moth zigzags past, drunkenly drawn to hues humans can't even see. Historians still argue whether cloistered gardens grew lavender for medicine, or just to mask the reek of unwashed habits. Bees lumber between florets, their back legs bulging with pollen pantaloons. You count 7 on a single stalk, a living chandelier too busy to notice your shadow. 16th century scribes inked manuscripts with lavender oil, futilely hoping moths would rather starve than endure the aroma. The breeze shifts, carrying a whiff of wood smoke that the lavender battles like a jealous lover. Twilight softens the rose into impressionist smears, edges blurring like wet watercolor. Your elbow brushes, a stem sticky resin clings to skin, a scent that'll outlast your next 3 showers. Groundskeepers once spread lavender ash to repel mice, a trick as effective as yelling shoo at tax collectors. Crushed petals stain your soul's purple, the garden's sly claim on wherever you walk next. The church bell groans again. 5 p.m. 6. Time's turned liquid here, measured in bee visits and shadow stretches. You crouch, spotting a spider's web slung between blooms, its silk threads trembling with stolen lavender dew. Victorian perfumers claimed a field this size could flavor 10,000 soaps, though math was clearly not their strong suit. A hot air balloon drifts overhead, its burners roar softened by the scent blanket. Passengers wave, tiny specks, unaware they're crossing a centuries-old aromatherapy lab. Your knees creak when standing half from age, half from the plant's hypnotic gravity. Someone's hung a weather-beaten sign. No cutting. Charles II's ghost charges by the sprig. Purple intensifies as dusk rolls in the flowers, clinging to color like singers, holding a final note. You pocket a fallen bud, its fragrance seeping through denim to haunt your hip. Scholars recently found lute music scored with lavender oil, sheet metal rustling as mold avoids the scented bars. Night's first cricket chirps, metronomic counterpoint to the fading bells. Wind combs the field, 1,000 blooms whispering in unison. Their message gets lost in translation, something about patience and root systems. You smirk, pretty talk from a plant that dies if you water it with enthusiasm. The lavender shushes you, air thickening with every breath, until even your thoughts move slower. A tractor path cuts through the rows, its hard-packed dirt resisting the invasion of velvet leaves. You follow it, hands skimming flower heads like a kid trailing a fence. 10 paces in, the scent shifts darker, muskier, the hidden plot twist of a late-blooming cultivar. Elizabethan tanners used lavender oil to mask the stench of vats, a floral curtain over backstage rot. Your phone buzzes, the screen's blue glare an alien here. You decline the call, letting voicemail drown in lavender reservoirs. 3 fireflies blink on off, Morse code reminders that the real world's still out there. Somewhere, the path slopes downward, each step deeper into a perfume that's now more memory than air. Leaves rustle to your left. A hedgehog waddles through underbrush, its quills jeweled with twilight. You freeze, breath held, as it snuffles a fallen blossom. The nobles of Provence, they rolled in lavender fields after hunts, didn't they? No, that was dogs. Same energy, though. The hedgehog sneezes, a miniature explosion of pollen and indignation. Moonrise bleaches the purple to silver, the field becoming its own ghost. You swallow, throat sticky from breathing essence of 300 summers. Modern varieties bloom louder, but these heirloom strains hold their scent tighter, vintners of the fragrance world. A bat zips overhead, its jagged flight path dodging scent cones you'll never perceive. The last bell tolls, so faint now, it might be tinnitus dressed up as ambience. Lavender presses closer, oxygen optional, when every lungful tastes like a sachet. You found a coin earlier, 1700 something, green with age. Toss it into the field, a down payment for tomorrow's sunlight. Shadows pool around your ankles. The plants exhale as stars prick the indigo. 1 step back, then 2, the lavender releasing you like a reluctant parole board. Church lights twinkle beyond the hill, man-made constellations against the dark. Your clothes hum with stolen perfume, a fragrant hostage situation as you retreat toward the gate. Boots crunch, gravel each step a rude clatter in the hush. Lavender's final gift, a bee drowsing in your hair, its legs still furred with pollen. You shake your head gently. It zips away outraged, leaving behind a single sticky footprint above your ear. The night air cools, carrying the first note of tomorrow's dawn chorus, and the faintest echo of choked sneezes from a hedgehog's den. Gravel gives way to cracked limestone. Your boots meet steps that remember Norman spurs. The staircase spirals up the keep's carcass. Broken teeth grin at the clouds. 8 centuries ago, workers hauled these stones for Duke William's architects, the same hands that built rebellion-proof towers across England. You touch a groove in the mortar, someone's chisel slipped in 1203 or thereabouts, leaving fossilized frustration in the rock. 3 flights up, the stairs end like a snapped sentence. Sky wedges itself between broken edges, no handrail between you, and a 60-foot introduction to gravity. Wind riffles your collar, an uninvited guest whispering jump in medieval Norman French. Historians still argue whether these ruins were bombarded in the Civil War, or if shoddy 12th century contractors cut corners. A lone poppy clings to a step, its petals vibrating like warning flags. You sit, legs dangling over the drop, and notice carvings in the limestone. Faded chessboards, horned beasts, initials scored by bored sentries. One grooves too precise, a mason's level carved during lunch breaks, still straight enough to balance a carpenter's square. Dust puffs from the stone as you shift, each particle a retired castle atom. Below, the herb garden spreads like a green bruise, rosemary and thyme stitching the wound. Workers here guzzled clove-infused ale during the Black Death, a misguided shield against miasma. Your fingers find a rusted iron peg, all that remains of the long-gone wooden palisade. Sunlight bleaches the steps, heat stored in limestone leaching into your jeans. A ladybug lands on your wrist, its spot count declaring this a prime basking zone. 17th century mathematicians calculated parabolic curves using these very drops, or so claims a dubious plaque in the gift shop. You blow gently, the insect tilts its shell, unimpressed by human skepticism. Westward, the valley's patchwork fields mirror the keep's crumbled geometry. Sheep dots blur as your eyes unfocus, turning wool into pixels. A demolition charge from 1646 sleeps somewhere in these walls, or maybe that's just the droning bees. You pocket a pebble, its edges rounded by storms and Duke Robert's tantrums. Plaster fragments crunch underfoot. They taste like chalk when you lick one. Saltpeter ghosts linger centuries of guardhouse, urine seeping into the stone. 3 crows land on the highest intact step, their talons click-clacking debate over your right to perch here. One drops a snail shell. It twirls like a sycamore seed before shattering on rosemary below. Shadows stretch their legs, cooling the stone where sunlight once blazed. You count 18 steps intact, 19 if you include the half-eaten one. Tudor era repairs used tavern bricks, still faintly reeking of spilled mead under noon's interrogation. Your phone buzzes, an amber alert about missing sheep, but reception's too patchy for modern woes. A fossilized cherry pit winks from the mortar, some long-dead archer's snack preserved. You press a penny into its crevice, heads up for luck or archaeology. Workers here were paid in garlic and salt during sieges, currency that outlasted their king's promises. Wind surges carrying the herb garden's sigh, and a whiff of storm. Thunderhead clouds bully their way east, their bellies gray with unshed rain. First drops hit like cold pennies, pocking the limestone with polka dots. You rise, knees protesting, and face the choice all ruin explorers know: reckless climb or sensible retreat. The uppermost step crumbles a bit under your weight, a not-so-subtle hint from history. Rain intensifies, washing pigeon droppings into abstract art down the walls. You descend sideways, crab-like, gripping non-existent handrails. 73 steps feel steeper going down, each one slick with ancient hubris and modern drizzle. Halfway, you spot a name gouged into stone: W. Thatcher, 1743, and a crude phallus, proof some jokes are eternal. Hail now, ice pellets ricocheting off medieval masonry. Your hood's no match for diagonal fury. Water sluices down your neck. The herb garden drinks greedily, sage leaves bowing under icy pearls. You leap the last 3 steps, improvised slides, and land, ankle deep, in puddled thyme. A soaked receipt clings to your soul, ink bleeding to recite someone's lunch order. Sun breaks through, steam rising from the stairs like castle breath. Gold light gilds the wreckage, a postcard view for tourists 3 centuries hence. Your teeth chatter, shirt plastered cold, but the keep just shrugs its stony shoulders. Storms built this place, stormed this place, and now take turns licking its bones. You squeeze water from your sleeves, drops hitting ants, evacuating a flooded citadel. The staircase drips a staccato rhythm, Norman metronome, keeping pace with your heartbeat. One final look upward, where that poppy still clings, its petals grease paint red against the blush gray stone. Tomorrow's visitors will find new cracks and ghosts of your damp footprints fading in the sun. Rainwater drips from your hair as you approach the bristling wall. Hyssop spikes jut from mortar like nature's iron filings. Each woody stem wears a necklace of tiny blooms, white petals shy as moth wings. The plant's sharp scent slices through the storm's dampness, a green blade of mint and bitterness. Monks grew hyssop here 800 years, past their mortar mixed with wine and egg whites for strength. You pinch a leaf, its oils stain your fingers with ancient pharmacy. Crusaders carried dried hyssop to purify battlefield wounds, though whether it helped or hastened sepsis remains deliciously unclear. A bumblebee zigzags past, its legs yellowed with pollen stolen from safer flowers. Historians still argue whether Norman herbalists valued the plant for medicine, or just liked how it choked out weeds. Damp stone crumbles under your palm, exposing a sliver of 12th century craftsmanship. The wall breathes a sigh of wet earth and iron, the metallic tang of groundwater meeting old nails. Someone once carved a face here. Time blurred its features, into a Rorschach blot of maybe a nose. You press a thumb into the groove, briefly gifting the stone ghost a dimple. Hyssop roots writhe through cracks, their grip tighter than a miser's fist. Medieval peasants pinned hyssop above doorways to repel witches, and also midges. The latter strategy actually worked. A cabbage white butterfly lands on your sleeve, pretending to be snow in July. Its wings fan twice, flakes of chalk lifted from the wall's pale belly. You snap a stem, the sound echoes like a green bone breaking. Bitterness floods your tongue before you taste it, the plant defending itself with chemical artillery. Tudor midwives steeped hyssop in honey for cough syrup. Paupers got it boiled in ditch water. The aftertaste clings, a reminder that healing once meant enduring one torture to cure another. Sunlight returns, low and slanting, turning each dewdrop into a spyglass. 23 ants march along a hyssop stalk, their root bypassing sticky sap traps. A droplet lands on your neck, cold encore of the departed storm. You examine the chewed leaves, jagged edges mimicking Norman battlements in miniature. 3 moths materialize pale as the wall itself, fluttering toward the tiny blooms. Their wings whisper against petals, a sound like eyelashes brushing parchment. Night shift pollinators working the herbal nightclub. No cover charge, but survival. You lean closer. The hyssop's shadow stripes your face like a prisoner's mask. The crushed stem still stings your palm, its vengeance seeping into skin lines. Modern labs confirm hyssop fights fungi, a fact Brother Alcuin discovered via monastic footrot trials. Your phone buzzes, a text lost to signal limbo. As you rub the green stain, it resists, an organic tattoo saying I messed with the wrong shrub. Wind combs through the hyssop, releasing peppery notes that make your nose twitch. 700 years ago, this scent clung to plague doctors' robes as they carted corpses. The wall groans softly, settling its stone weight as a sparrow lands to peck mortar. Its beak comes up clean, no insects fool enough to nest here. Shadows stretch, the hyssop's silhouette now slender as a Gothic arch. You pocket a dried seed pod. It rattles like a tiny maraca of regret. Maybe plant it somewhere, or just lose it to the laundry cycle. A dog barks in the village, the sound frayed by distance into wolf song. The bitter aftertaste lingers. An hour later, your tongue still files complaints. You rinse your mouth with water from a rain puddle, questioning every life choice since breakfast. 13 snails ascend the wall, their trails glisten like slug calligraphy, praising the damp. Your jeans leave a wet shadow on the bench, a butt-shaped Rorschach test for future visitors. Twilight thickens. The hyssop's flowers glow faintly in the half-light. Moths increase their traffic, crash landing on petals with the grace of drunk diplomats. Your stomach growls, its rumble harmonizing with the keep's hollow breeze through arrow slits. Somewhere, a janitor locks the gift shop, sealing Tudor-themed bobbleheads behind bulletproof glass. You stand, knees creaking a protest, and brush hyssop debris from your thighs. The plant already regrows where you broke its stem. A chlorophyll middle finger to human meddling. Night air carries a baby's cry from the village, soon soothed by a lullaby older than these walls. Your shadow stretches toward the parking lot, a dark tether to rented cars and vending machines. One final look. The hyssop waves its spiky fronds in mocking farewell. Its bitterness coats your teeth, a medieval flavor chewing gum can't erase. You'll taste it tomorrow in coffee, in toothpaste, in the ghost of this stolen leaf. The wall watches your retreat, patient as lichen, knowing you'll dissolve long before its mortar does. Black feathers litter the turf, each quill angled like a fallen exclamation mark. You kneel, your shadow merging with a raven's silhouette cast from the broken parapet above. Its beak gleams polished obsidian, a tool for prying secrets from walnut shells and tourist sandwiches. Wind riffles the feathers. They shiver against your shins. Velvet whispers against denim. The bird cocks its head, one oil slick eye weighing your worth as a scavenger. Ravens haunted these stones when Edward III hosted Christmas feasts here, though records show he paid a raven master to keep them off the banquet tables. You pocket a molted feather, its spine still warm from the July air. Scientists say ravens slide down snowy rooftops for fun, a fact that explains their playground cause. As you retreat, mortar crumbles under your thumbnail. You've picked at the same fissure for 3 breaths. The tower's shadow stretches, a sundial pointing toward the gift shop's neon closed sign. Your raven shifts, fluffing ebony plumage into a feathery bomber jacket. It croaks the sound like a rusted hinge, protesting its own existence. You spot chessboard carvings on a toppled merlin, their squares warped by centuries of frost heave. Historians still argue whether Norman masons etched them for decoration, or if bored guards gambled here with stolen checker pieces. Ants march through a night's groove, their bounty, a dead crane fly sprawled across tile before the raven descends, wings snapping like black umbrellas in a gale, and swipes the insect with ninja precision. Sunlight catches iridescent beetle green in its feathers, colors hidden until the angle's just right. Medieval illuminators ground raven quills into ink, their midnight hue staining manuscripts about damnation and cheese taxes. You blink, suddenly noticing a dozen more feathers wedged in crevices. The keep hoards them like a miser's coins, each plucked during molting season's itchy despair. Your shoe grinds a feather into the dirt, the veins splaying like fractured piano keys. The raven freezes, head tilted at the exact angle of a security camera sensing shoplifting. Its throat vibrates with a sound like marbles in a tin can, avian profanity your mother would wash from your mouth with soap. You retreat, crunching through dried yarrow stalks that snap like brittle bones. The chessboard stone feels colder than its neighbors, its carved lines trapping shadows like flypaper. Someone chiseled a crude crown in the margin, either royal graffiti or a stonemason's job application. The raven retreats to its perch, kicking pebbles that clatter down the wall like resigned applause. A feather drifts into your hair, its touch lighter than a lover's final promise. You leave it there, a temporary accessory for your stroll through avian royalty. The bird preens, ignoring you now that its turf war's won. 14 crows mob a maple. Beyond the wall, their racket, drowned by a passing ice cream truck's jingle. Your stomach growls. Its rumble syncs with distant thunder. The raven fluffs into a feathery storm cloud, ready to wait out rain that won't come for hours. You lick salt from your lips, pretending it's the ghost of long venison banquets. A mosquito hums near your ear, dodges your slap, and vanishes into the bird's shadow. Shadows bleed across the chessboard, turning pawn grooves into bottomless wells. You trace a king's eroded crown, its power reduced to a speed bump for woodless. The raven snaps its beak, a metronome counting down your trespass. Dust motes swirl where its wings stirred the air, microscopic galaxies born and died between your heartbeats. The first star prickles the eastern sky, Polaris winking through smog's orange veil. The raven croaks again, its call echoing off stones that once echoed with archers' taunts. You step back, heel squashing a mint leaf that releases its final breath of stubborn perfume. Wind surges, lifting feathers into a drunken waltz around your ankles. The bird's eye glints, a shard of void judging your retreat. You pass through the gate, its iron teeth biting shadows from the path ahead. The caw follows, a hitchhiker clinging to your collar as you merge with the night. Twilight bleeds from violet to indigo, the air thickening with the musk of dew-soaked soil. Pale moonflower buds stir their spiraled furls, loosening like ballerinas, stretching after centuries. End point. You crouch, watching a bloom unfurl in real time, petals peeling back with the lethargic grace of a cassette tape rewinding. Its scent ambushes you, lemon zest cut with raw honey, a perfume wafting from blossom chalices wide as your palm. Candlelight once flickered in these gardens, monks brewing moonflower tinctures to numb battlefield wounds. Hildegard of Bingen praised their sleep-inducing powers, though she warned against smelling them after midnight. You resist the urge to lick a petal, its surface dusted with nectar that glows faintly under the rising moon. A moth lands, proboscis coiling into the flower's throat, its wings shivering like crumpled tissue paper. Historians still argue whether medieval midwives used moonflowers to ease childbirth or to silence unwanted infants. You count 18 blooms, each pulsing faintly as if pumped by invisible veins. Their glow intensifies, casting your shadow in triplicate against the keep's pockmarked walls. Victorians believed sleeping under moonflowers could reveal a suitor's true face, a rumor that caused 17 engagements to dissolve in 1892 alone. One blossom trembles, its stem quivering like a dowser's rod sensing water. You lean closer, spotting a beetle trapped in sticky pollen legs, kicking in feudal Morse code. The plant's veins fluoresce, biochemical pathways lit up like airport runways. Moonflowers only bloom for one night, their entire existence a race against dawn's first blush. You inhale deeply, the scent now tinged with decay, a reminder that beauty and desperation share the same root system. A petal detaches, drifting onto your wrist like a tissue paper bandage. Its edges curl, already desiccating in the night air. You recall reading that Edwardian stagehands soaked moonflowers in mercury to make them glow brighter, a trick that killed 6 chorus girls in 1903. The moth abandons its feast, zigzagging upward in a spiral that mirrors the keep's long-vanished staircase. Your knees protest as you stand, patella grinding like pepper mills. The garden hums, not with bees, but with the faint sizzle of metabolism. Moonflowers photosynthesize moonlight, or so claimed a disgraced botanist whose papers vanished after that incident with the hedgehogs. You check your phone, its blue light jarring against nature's softer glow, and find no signal, only the time screaming 11:47 p.m. in pixelated scarlet. Something crunches underfoot, a snail shell shattered into opal shards. You kneel again, pressing a fragment into damp earth like burying a fallen comrade. The moonflowers lean, following the moon's arc, their faces upturned like penitents, awaiting absolution. A breeze riffles their petals, the sound akin to a librarian shuffling ancient divorce decrees. You spot carving on the garden wall, a Chinese letter cross, surrounded by lunar phases. Is it a nun's devotional, or a tavern owner's alehouse sign, sandblasted by time? The moth returns, dusting your cheek with scale, its compound eyes reflecting 100 miniature moons. Dew forms on petals, each droplet magnifying the flower's phosphorescence. You swipe one, rolling the cold bead between thumb and forefinger, its purity diluted by urban smog. Night-blooming plants evolved to avoid flower-munching dinosaurs, a survival tactic now wasted on slugs and tipsy undergraduates. The beetle escapes, its wings buzzing Nintendo hardware loud. You track its flight until it vanishes into the keep's maw, a doorway choked with ivy and one dangling shutter. Moonflowers begin folding, edges browning like love letters in a fireplace. Their time's up, the sacrifice complete, and you're the sole witness to their private apocalypse. Your breath fogs, each exhale a ghost, rehearsing its final monologue. As you turn to leave, a petal clings to your shoe, pale flag of surrender, dragging through the dirt. The moth alights on your shoulder, a silent hitchhiker drawn to residual nectar. Or perhaps the sodium glare of streetlights beyond the wall. Church bells toll, midnight, their bronze vibrations muffled by humidity's wet wool blanket. The last moonflower snaps shut, trapping a gnat mid-flight, and stillness reclaims the garden. You exit, crushing a basil sprout that releases pesto-scented defiance. As the moth dissolves into starless dark, the moth's absence leaves your shoulder lighter, your soles crunching gravel as moonflower decay fades behind. Ahead, a rough circle of stones breaches the earth, moss fuzzing its edges like mold on forgotten bread. Iron hoops rim the well, their rust bleeding into fissures that map centuries of frost heaves. A bucket squats at the base, its belly full of rain and drowned beetles. You kick it, the clang ricochets upward, a metallic belch that startles bats from the keep's gutted windows. The sound plummets, transforming mid-fall into a wet gurgle, as if the well swallowed your noise and vomited it back. Medieval lords poisoned rivals by dropping beehives down siege wells, though historians still argue whether bees could survive the drop. Leaning over the rim, you inhale wet stone and the tang of iron-eating bacteria. Peering down, black water mirrors your face, but the reflection blinks a half-second late. Your whispered hello descends, then balloons upward, deepened 2 octaves, and slurred like a drunk baritone gargling marbles. Chain links lie scattered, each stamped with a boar's head insignia. Tudor tax records mention a well cleaner named Hogarth who vanished here in 1542, replaced by 6 increasingly cursed apprentices. You pluck a link, its corrosion stinging your palm, and drop it. The clink, clink, clink stretches into a metallic yawn, as though the well's throat widens with each echo. A frog plops into the water, ripples distorting your doppelganger into a ghoulish funhouse version. 19th century spiritualists claimed wells were portals to Earth's whispering veins, hence the term well of despair in Gothic novels. Your phone's flashlight pierces the gloom, revealing brickwork eaten into honeycomb patterns by acidic water. Show off, you mutter, the well returning it as SSH OFFF, a SOUND Chinese letter-like and mournful. In 1923, a jazz trumpeter supposedly recorded well echoes here, though the wax cylinder vanished after audiences reported hearing Gregorian chanting beneath his notes. You toss a pebble, counting 6 seconds before the splash. School textbooks claim that's a 30-meter drop, but your gut insists it's deeper. The bucket wobbles its handle, missing 3 bolts. You nudge it with your toe and freeze. The water below erupts, a subterranean belch, loosing bubbles that pop with a sulfur stink. Historians still argue whether Norman engineers built echo chambers into wells to detect sappers during sieges. Moss grinds under your palm as you retreat, its neon green betraying recent acid rain. The well exhales, a damp waft carrying the sweetness of rotting apples. A church bell tolls once, its vibration skittering across the water's skin like a skipped stone. You pocket a rusted bolt, its threads flaking into orange dust. The well gurgles, a wet chuckle, as you walk backward toward moon-washed paths. Last week's rain whispers up the shaft, each drip a metronome keeping time for whatever grows in the dark. Your shadow stretches, reaching the well's maw just as cloud smothers the moon. For a breath, the darkness feels reciprocal, the well watching you as keenly as you watched it. Then a bat screams, or maybe it's the hinge on that broken shutter, and the spell snaps. Gravel shifts underfoot, a final SHHH from the stones as you leave the circle of damp. The bucket jealously guards its hoard of dead insects, a rusty trove untouched by Instagram or indoor plumbing. Somewhere below, water licks stone patient as a jailer counting lifers. No CTAs, no self-checks. Your shoes grind rosemary needles into powder each step, releasing Christmas morning scent. Stiff branches claw at your thighs, leaving traceries that'll itch for days. Crusaders stuffed their helmets with this stuff, believed it confused Saracen archers' aim. You snap a twig, sap oozing like tree blood to stain your thumbprint. A breeze riffles the hedge, 93 prickly years of growth, according to the 1927 Garden Ledger. Victorian brides crammed bouquets with rosemary, not for love, but to smother the stench of grooms who hadn't bathed since Lent. The sprig in your pocket stabs through denim, a vegetative voodoo doll exacting revenge for its severed limb. Moss furrows between limestone blocks, each ridge mapping rainfalls before the steam engine's birth. You trace a spiral carved near the base, identical to ones in Canterbury Cathedral's cloister. Historians still argue whether Norman masons smuggled pagan symbols into holy sites as silent rebellion. A thorn pierces your cuticle payment for disturbing a plant that's outlived dynasties. Church bells clot the air, their vibrations knocking a ladybug off its leafy perch. You count the spots. 7. Medieval herbalists swore 7-spotted beetles cured gout when boiled in goat urine. The insect writes its carapace, wings buzzing resentment, before launching toward safer foliage. Shadows pool at the hedge's base, ink spreading across parchment. Sunset gilds the topmost branches, igniting silver green into molten bronze. Tudor housewives buried rosemary under bedstraw to lock husbands' vows in leaf-wrought chains. You pluck another sprig, this one young enough to bend without snapping, and twirl it like a lockpick. Wind shifts, carrying bergamot and sewage from the modern parking lot 3 blocks east. The contrast makes you sneeze. A spider evacuates its web between 2 branches, silk threads snapping like overstrung lutes. 900 years ago, monks here distilled rosemary oil for ink that still stains royal marriage contracts in the British Library. Your kneecap cracks as you stand, a percussive duet with the bell tower's final toll. 19 husks of dead bees litter the gravel, a mini catacomb beneath the hedge. Apiarists in the Blitz claimed rosemary honey made air raid sirens sound mellower, a placebo as thin as blackout curtains. The sprig in your pocket migrates, poking your hip bone through 4 layers of fabric. You relocate it behind your ear. Instantly, the scent amplifies, pine resin and lemon rind drilling into your sinuses. 16th century Oxford students chewed rosemary during exams, convinced it opened the brain's locked chambers. Your GPA suggests they overpromised. Moonlight crystallizes the path ahead, each rosemary bush casting blue-black silhouettes like grim forest sentries. Your thumbnail finds sap gummed between cuticles, emergency rations if you get stranded in this spice rack of history. The keep's outer wall hums against your palm, its stones still hoarding August sunlight like misers. 3 fireflies blink Morse code near the compost heap, their green gold signals unanswered. You inhale until your ribs creak, filling lungs with air that's traversed rosemary leaves since a leaner of Aquitaine's perfumers passed through. Breath held, you almost taste the vanished lavender fields that once bordered this garden, their purple haze erased by townhomes in 1963. The sprig behind your ear wilts, its ambition exceeding its moisture reserves. You tuck it into a crevice between stones, a future fossil for archaeologists allergic to pollen. Somewhere beyond the wall, a car alarm wails, its digital yelp clashing with cicada song. 2 eras dueling through amplified throats. Your shadow stretches, reaching the herb garden's exit as the security lights snap on. Sodium yellow glare murders the firefly's romance. The rosemary hedge shivers, either lamenting your departure or applauding your exit. You'll assume the latter. Sap hardens on your thumb, a burgundy scab that'll linger till dawn. The hawthorns rise like arthritic hands, knuckled trunks braced against centuries of wind. Your sleeve snags, 3 razor thorns dissecting denim threads with surgical spite. These trees anchored medieval property lines, their dense thickets cheaper than stone walls and twice as spiteful. A berry squashes underfoot, its crimson guts mirroring the sunset smeared across your shoe sole. You crouch, inspecting bark etched with generations of initials. TW 1812 breathes through lichen, the letters widened by 2 centuries of arboreal growth. Victorian folklore claims hawthorn blooms predict whether if they open before May Day. Prepare for summer rains. The petals crumbled decades ago, their prophetic powder lost to lawnmowers. Moonlight transforms thorns into silver filaments, each tip glistening with anticoagulant saliva. You resist the urge to lick one, though Elizabethan surgeons did exactly that to test blade sharpness. A berry stem pricks your thumb, sour juice flooding nail beds. Medieval chronicles document this exact pain, peasant uprisings quashed using hawthorn switches as improvised scourges. Heat lingers in the gnarled wood, residual warmth from a day's solar hoarding. Pressing your palm against the trunk, you feel sap throbbing, veins pumping life through corky tissue. Historians still argue whether Norman lords planted these trees for defense or to honor Celtic tree lore. Your scratched arm votes for spite. 27 berries cluster above your head, translucent skins stretched over mushy innards. You pluck one, it bursts between molars, astringency coating your tongue like oxidized pennies. Tudor cookbooks sneered at hawthorn jelly, reserving it for paupers and penitents. The aftertaste suggests they weren't wrong. bark creaks, a sound like old stairs protesting stolen sleep. 2 thorns embed in your ponytail, the tree claiming follicular tribute. Napoleonic soldiers carried hawthorn talismans, believing the spines could deflect bullets if arranged in star patterns. Your scalp throbs, 19th century superstitions making terrible hair accessories. Wind whistles through a trunk's heart-shaped rot, the hollow acting as nature's poorly tuned flute. Rotting wood exhales, scenting the air with damp cellulose and disappointment. You count 11 concentric growth rings in the cavity, each marking a year. This tree survived Tudor tax collectors and rugby practice fouls. A beetle navigates your shoelace, mistaking nylon webbing for flattened vines. Its iridescent shell glimmers mermaid green, same hue as mercury glass vials in apothecary museums. You shake it free, watch 6 legs scramble for purchase on asphalt modernity. 1920s, medical journals proposed beetle secretions as hair tonic, enthusiasm dampened by the unfortunate adhesion factor. The hedge stretches westward, a spiky spine dividing heritage from housing estates. Your shadow merges with the hawthorns, tangled silhouette, a 2-dimensional crime scene outline. In the distance, a greenhouse glows, its LED panels bleaching night into synthetic noon. Edwardian gardeners would have hexed that techno-shrine with compost curses. Twilight softens the thorns, their edges blurring into charcoal smudges against indigo sky. You snap a twig, its green interior pulsing with chlorophyll urgency. The fracture releases a nutty aroma, brown butter, and hazelnuts that somehow survives your discount drugstore shampoo. 17th century herbalists prescribed hawthorn inhalants for melancholy, fresh air with extra branding. 3 berries plummet, splattering on a bench plaque, commemorating someone's beloved spaniel, Biscuit. Wasps converge, abdomen stripes, rippling like tiny warning beacons. A wood pigeon coos, the sound dumber than expected from a bird wearing a formal cravat of feathers. You pocket an intact berry, memento from a shrub that's witnessed more history than most professors. Frost feathers the path ahead, each crystal gleaming like shaved titanium. Your breath hangs visible, a ghost replica of the hawthorns, tangled branches. Regency diaries describe stolen kisses under these boughs, romance hampered by persistent risk of facial lacerations. The scratches on your cheekbone hum in solidarity. You step back, thorns releasing your jacket, with the sullen pop of Velcro separating. A strand of hair remains fluttering like a surrender flag made of keratin. The keep's floodlights activates, transforming the hawthorns into a puppet show of elongated shadows. One silhouette mimics your stance, arm raised, beckoning toward moonlit meadows where night creatures stir. Your shadow stretches toward the dry basin, fingertips brushing where water once danced. The stone maiden's hands grip nothing, palms cupped to catch drizzle that hasn't fallen since Brexit trended worldwide. Lichen crusts her cheeks, green tears fossilized by decades of neglect. This fountain quenched 12th century thirsts, its lead pipes harvested by Civil War bullet casters. You crouch, fingernails scraping mineral deposits at the basin's rim. Grit sparkles, mica flecks, outlasting the Tudor beer this trough once held. Wind funnels through the drain hole, a parched whistle mimicking taps, running in abandoned castles. Restorationists found rat skeletons here in 1998, petrified mid-swim, with tiny paws still paddling. The statue's chipped toes hint at former grandeur, each digit whittled by frost and pigeon strikes. Her robe folds resemble melting wax, Baroque excess softened into abstract lumps. Someone's stuffed a Coke can between her feet, aluminum, crumpled like a modernist rose. 18th century tourists chiseled their names below the plinth. J. Marlowe, 1762, bleeding, rust from iron oxide graffiti. You press your ear to the basin's crack, hoping for underground trickles. Silence answers. The aquifer below, diverted to irrigate a golf course's 9th hole. Historians still argue whether the maiden depicts Saint Agnes or some lord's drowned mistress. Her expression suggests boredom with the speculation. 3 dead leaves orbit the drain, a dry mini whirlpool of oak and regret. You drop a pebble. It clicks against terracotta shards down in the dark. Medieval plumbers packed joints with wool and molten beeswax. Archaeologists found their fingerprints in 1923's renovations. The repairs lasted longer than the monarchy. Moonlight glazes the statue's eyes, empty sockets, suddenly luminous. You remember Versailles fountains ran with rosewater, while peasants here drank runoff, flavored with sheep dung. A spider lowers itself into the basin, fishing for phantom minnows in dust. Your thumb catches on a carved scallop shell, the basin's edge detail worn smooth by centuries of idle stroking. Ghost water ripples your skin, puckering with imagined chill. Victorians tossed coins here for luck. Modern equivalent rattles in your pocket as a subway token. The drain exhales cellar breath, mold spores, and the tang of oxidized metal. You recoil, nostrils flaring at the scent of wet matches and forgotten root vegetables. 1930s guides claimed drinking the fountain's water cured gout and caused 6 kinds of dysentery. Lichen crumbles under your touch, pale green powder settling in lifelines. A thrush lands on the maiden's head, depositing fecal commentary on restoration efforts. Your phone buzzes, an amber alert flooding the screen with light pollution. Norman masons would have built a shrine to this glowing rectangle. You trace the basin's crack, a jagged ravine, bisecting what's left of the porcelain finish. 4 ants march the fault line, tiny surveyors assessing structural integrity. Schoolchildren threw vinegar here in 1658, hoping to summon vinegaroons from the underworld. Their teachers earned extra shillings scrubbing the mess. The statue's missing fingertip lies in gravel below, nailed there by ivy roots. You pocket it, chalky limestone, already warming to body temperature. Night shift guards report hearing splashes here, always at 3:17 a.m. But security cameras show nothing. Wind combs through the maiden's stone hair, strands frozen mid-toss. A primeval-looking beetle shuffles across her lobe, living earring mocking the rubies lost to grave robbers. You blink, and the basin's dust swirls into a mini tornado for 3 precise rotations. Your shadow grows teeth, jagged edges devouring the fountain's eastern rim. The Manor's gift shop sells plastic replicas, vaguely vaginal blobs labeled spiritual keepsakes. You toss your subway token into the void. It hits with a click that echoes like a teardrop. Feathery fronds catch the last light, gold dissolving into blue. You crush a seed between thumb and forefinger. Its tang recalls pickled summers in clay jars. The dill sways like 1,000 green thread legs, each umbel dancing to a breeze you can't feel. Night creeps up the stalks, slipping through the garden like a burglar checking door latches. Roman soldiers stuffed their sandals with dill, believing it prevented battle blisters. Modern tests showed it actually accelerated foot fungus. You pluck a sprig, its anise bite, cutting through the meadows, sweet rot. 3 fireflies orbit your head, living fairy lights, mocking your dead smartphone battery. Historians still argue whether Norman herbalists used dill to ward off witchcraft, or just seasoned trout. A swallow dives overhead, wingtips skimming the tallest fronds, snatching insects drawn to your sweat. The severed subway token winks from your pocket, its edge patterned with tarnished tulips. You rub a leaf, oils leaving a sticky film that'll haunt your cuticles for days. Someone planted this bed after the Black Death, hopeful green against a century of skulls. Moonlight transmutes the garden dill heads, becoming suspended jellyfish in an inky ocean. Your shadow stretches unnaturally, legs merging with the keep's west wall. A 2-headed giant slain by dusk. A beetle climbs a stem, its shell iridescent as oil on asphalt. You count the seed clusters, 96 tiny satellites awaiting next season's diaspora. Tudor children played till night here, whacking each other with stalks until someone bled. The rules are lost. Like most games involving pointy vegetables, wind plucks a leaf. It spirals into a spiderweb strung between rosemary bushes. Silver threads glint, nature's laser security system, triggered by your approach. You lean in breath, fogging the web, and catch a whiff of lemon balm from Section 14's compost pile. Gravel crunches underfoot, each step releasing trapped sunlight like audio confetti. You pocket a handful of seeds, planning hypothetical future pickles that'll never get made. Renaissance apothecaries sold dillcomb tea, guaranteed to prevent baldness if applied during a waning moon. Reviews were mixed. The keep's shadow engulfs the path. You've stayed too late again. Your lungs pull air, flavored with chlorophyll and last century's coal smoke. 400 years ago, someone stood here chewing dill seeds, staring at these same constellations. Their worries were taxes and plague. Yours are parking validation and Wi-Fi dead zones. A bat detaches from the eaves, silent as a thrown shadow. You freeze its flight path kinking around your head like a skipped stone. The dill rustles, though the air's gone still, secrets passed frond to frond in a language for plants. Your knee cracks as you rise, 21st century joints, protesting alfresco meditation. Streetlights ignite beyond the wall amber competition for the Milky Way's muted glow. One seed clings to your sleeve, green and stubborn as a pensioner at last call. You flick it toward the compost, a tiny spaceship entering orbit, and turn toward the exit. Cold metal kisses your palm, the gate hinge, exhaling its familiar groan. Behind you, the dill sways in a breeze that doesn't touch your face. Somewhere, a jar of pickles ferments in a cellar, waiting to outlast us all. The gate's whine fades behind you. Wooden shutters ahead clap like moth-eaten applause. Your footsteps sync with their tempo creak, bang creak. Your ribs vibrate in time. Moonlight stripes the cobbles, each weathered stone angled toward the keep's highest window. They say Norman builders mixed ox blood into mortar, those dark seams glittering faintly as you pass. Yellow eyes flare in an upper groove, gone before you blink. Your neck hairs rise, not from fear, but the pure bass rumble vibrating your molars. Barn owls nested here since William the Conqueror's reign, eating rats that once spread the Black Death. Historians still argue whether their droppings preserved these timbers or just made conservators gag. A shutter tears free, screaming through rusted hinges to shatter on the flagstones. You jump back your shadow, performing the same jig medieval cooks did when scullions dropped cauldrons. Splinters skitter across centuries-old toe prints, ghosts of servants who scrubbed these stones with vinegar and rue. The wind carries a feather's whisper, maybe owl, maybe goose quill from some clerk's moldering ledger. Lean closer, see the shutter's underside. Carved names overlap: Gregory, 1582, Mary Anno Domini, 1671, Jamal Tick-Tock, 23, all seeking immortality in oak. Your pocket knife hesitates, then folds away. Graffiti survives longer than kingdoms, etched prayers outlasting the hands that carved them. Another flash of gold, the owl's head rotates backward with clockwork precision. It hoots once, a sound felt more than heard, the keep itself clearing its throat. Medieval peasants believed owls were laundresses, spirits doomed to rinse shrouds until Judgment Day. The bird preens unimpressed by its lore, a feather drifting down like misplaced ash. You catch it, barred patterns glow lunar white, something crunches underfoot, a pellet of bones and vole teeth. Dissecting owl vomit was a popular Victorian science, middle-class ladies mounting rodent skeletons in shadow boxes. Your stomach growls. Dinner feels different after that thought. Up close, the keep's blind arches yawn like slack mouths. Pigeons erupt from a crevice, wing beats mimicking the flutter of old siege flags. Your flashlight dies, a mercy, as the owl swoops silently through its shadow kingdom. Guides claim nightingales sing here in May, but tonight belongs to talons and the 3 a.m. freight train rattling the horizon. Your palm finds a stone worn smooth, thumb slotting into a depression made by centuries grinding spears. Air whistles through arrow slits, practiced notes from a gargoyle's flute. 11th century engineers angled these vents to amplify approaching hoofbeats, early warning system against torchlit raids. Now they hum with distant ice cream trucks and Uber alerts. The owl vanishes, its absence leaving a tinnitus-like void. You count 19 heartbeats before spotting it again, perched on a CCTV camera. Irony tastes metallic on your tongue. Cobwebs lace the security lens, spiders unconcerned with human surveillance. Moonlight bleaches the courtyard. Your shadow becomes a stretched ghost, practicing modern dance. Somewhere above, talons scritch against lead roofing. Tudor gardeners planted opium poppies here, harvesting latex for pain relief and rainy day tea. Their modern counterparts just pull weeds and collect ticket stubs. Cold seeps through your soles, centuries of dew stored in limestone. You exhale breath fog, forming a brief bishop's mitre. 3 bats helix past their sonar, pinging your phone's long-dead battery. Norman masons carved hidden faces in these walls, grinning demons peeking from capitals. You spot one, tongue lolling, its nose worn flat by 800 years of touch. Dawn pinks the east street sweepers, replacing the owl's reign with diesel growls. Your jacket's damp with featherlight mist, last night's secrets evaporating in the glare of bus headlights. The shutter lies where it fell, splintered wood already hosting a line of ants. They march toward cracks where kings once spat apple cores and plotted crusades. You pocket a rusted hinge screw, future-proof you attended this vigil. The keep exhales, a sigh of pigeon wings and creaking iron as sunlight nails the weather vane's cock to its copper perch. Sunlight slides down the oak's furrowed bark, catching on a golden globule trembling at the hive's lip. You freeze, halfway between reverence and the primal urge to lick tree syrup. 500,000 wings flex the air, a chord thrumming in your breastbone. Medieval monks kept skeps like these, honey paid as rent for abbey lands. Your shadow darkens the swarm, their buzz sharpening into a threat you feel in your fillings. Clover trembles under cargo-laden workers, each striped abdomen tipped with pollen pantaloons. A drone bumps your ear, its drunken trajectory spelling out ancient flight plans. Victorians believed bees gossiped about household deaths. Keepers draped hives in black crepe when masters passed. You whisper good morning, the greeting Saxon beekeepers used to deter stings. 17 workers investigate your left shoelace, negotiating terms for safe passage. The hive oozes sunlight, each wax hexagon holding liquid older than Normandy's conquest. Sticky threads stretch from your fingertips, snapping back like puppet strings. Historians still argue whether healing clover honey required prayer or just good weather. A guard bee circles your forehead twice, her pheromone glare hotter than the August haze. You recall nuns once used hive smoke during childbirth, a cloud to mute screams. Glass jars line a nearby stump, their labels bleached into Rorschach blots. One reads MELCAESARIS in faded ink, Caesar's honey, minus the leaded wine Romans preferred. Another overflows with propeller seeds, maple copters spun down from the parapet. A queen's pheromone punch hits your sinuses, clover and power. Worker bodies fan the entrance, wing beats wafting fermented nectar that could floor a badger. Your knee sinks into thyme, purple confetti crushed against denim. 6th century laws find hive vandals, 20 cetas per murdered bee, justice, weighted in wing beats. A scout taps the camera on your phone, documenting evidence for insect court. You pocket a fallen propolis chunk, bee glue once sealed Viking longship planks. Its resinous tang mingles with drip lines of gasoline from the car park. The swarm crescendos, a living organ pipe echoing off limestone. Tudor gardeners planted scarlet runners here beans to distract bears from sweet bribes. Now only sparrows dart through, avian thieves too small for the guards to notice. You time their raids, 19 seconds between worm grab and aerial escape. Shadows stripe the comb, a cathedral's rose window filtered through oak leaves. Worker traffic stalls as you lean closer, antennae quivering in Morse code debates. Victorian entomologists wrote opera librettos for bees, high CS matching wing resonance. Your humming earns side-eye from a pollen-smeared field agent. Drizzle pearls the hive, gold turning matte under watercolor skies. Bees retreat, their collective drone dampened to a refrigerator hum. You spot an old mead recipe carved into bark, honey, river moss, wild yeast. Someone scratched WINTYR 1421 below, a brew to outlast siege winters. The last letter trails off, etched by a hand seized by frost or feudal tax collectors. Warmth returns, the colony boils over like a living lava lamp. A forager gifts you a dandelion fluff backpack, sticky with meadow bribes. 13 degrees left of the hive, their compass flips. Magnetic fields from subway trains muddle the waggle dance, modern geometry, confusing Cretaceous GPS. Your elbow brushes the oak, sap fingerprints bond skin to bark. Proteus, the beekeeper, wrote of Apian democracies in 320 BCE, each swarm voting via wing buzz ballot. A worker cleans her antenna on your watch face, polishing sensors for better pollutant readings. The golden drip falls, plinking into ivy. You catch it midair, thumb and forefinger welding into an amber vice. Traffic noise dissolves into hive rhythm, a primal lullaby older than hypocaust heating. 43 bees patrol your periphery, their flight paths calculating threat ratios. Honey permeates your pores. You'll smell like a glazed ham for days. A scout leaves a warning note tacked to your collar, venom-laced ink on rag paper. Your retreat sends ripples through the guard battalion, buzzes softening into what might be approval. Sunset ignites the hive, each cell a stained glass prison for stolen light. You pocket the cooled honey tear, its weight bending spacetime in your jacket. Worker shifts change, the graveyard crew armored in dusk's navy. Their wingbeats sync with your pulse, a covenant sealed in glucose and thistle. Church bells argue with rush hour, 7 strikes lost under delivery van thunder. The hive dims, biological lamps clicking off as bees retreat. Your shoes glue themselves to centuries of spilled sweetness, each sticky step singing improvised hymns. Your shoes peel from the honeyed earth, each step clicking onto frost-heaved flagstones. Slabs murmur underfoot, their edges rounded by 9 centuries of pilgrim souls. You wobble, a tilted stone tilts your axis before catching balance on lichen-slicked grooves. 1874 repair records show masons used tavern dregs for mortar ale fumes sealed in every crack. Locals swore blind stones hummed when the moon veiled itself, said the tunes matched drowned sailors' shanties. Your heel grinds into a sunken carving, serpentine grooves worn to ghosts of themselves. Historians still argue whether these patterns charted ley lines or just bored apprentices practicing curls. Laughter erupts, not yours, bubbling from a stone stamped with a child's tiny bare footprint. August suns baked that mirth into quartz, playful echoes of a hoard long devoured by time. A beetle crosses your path, its shell iridescent as stained glass in transient sunlight. 7 cobblestones bear Roman numerals, tally marks for oxen sold or summers survived. Your shadow pools in a hollow carved for runoff, a miniature moat now home to tadpole squatters. 1 slab protrudes like a rotten tooth, its underside rumored to cradle a crusader's lost signet ring. You crouch, fingernail tracing a heart scratched around initials too faint to resurrect. 17th century lovers met here, clandestine promises drowned by market day clamor and clattering carts. Rain seeps through your jeans, knees discovering why medieval knees were always complaining. The stones remember what flesh forgets, wars measured in cobblestone, pried up for cannonball stock. 3 grooves channel ancestral blood, or maybe just butcher's alley runoff from Michaelmas fairs. Your pulse sinks with distant forge clangs, blacksmith ghosts haunting the tourist information center's foundation. A triangular stone clicks when stepped on Victorian pranksters rigged it with a buried bellows. Kids still jump here, mocking the Queen's fart that once startled visiting bishops. Moss creeps between stones, nature's grout slowly erasing human patterns. You pause, holding breath, to catch the chuckle baked into a sun-warmed patch near the well. 3 quick steps trigger a staccato hum granite, singing vespers through your shoe soles. Church bells ration the hour, 7 bronze throats, counting time between plague outbreaks. Your left boot finds a dip polished by a million left turns, peasant's muscle memory steering you toward the vanished alehouse. A flash of sea glass winks from mortar, Coca-Cola green against centuries-old lime mix. 13th century law fined citizens for stone racket after curfew. Clogs on cobbles provoked duels and sleepless bailiffs. You shuffle sideways, testing which slabs groan loudest under modern rubber tread. The laughter resurfaces, soaked into stone like tannins in cathedral oak. Scholars dismissed it as wind catching the keep's arrow slits, but you know better. Your next footfall cracks a snail shell, its spiral home, a tiny echo chamber for forgotten mirth. Evening bleeds warmth from the stones, their daytime stories cooling into indecipherable whispers. You pocket a pebble worn smooth, its edges rounded by dances it'll never describe. Somewhere beneath you, a dog's bark from 1423 chases a pork pie thief into eternity. Lightning rods on the gift shop buzz, their stored static whispering through iron-shod heels. The flagstones sigh, resigned to carrying footsteps that never linger long enough to learn the lyrics. Sun-warmed stone gives way to soil, your heel sinking into loam that remembers plague year burials. Mallow leaves brush your ankle, velvet friction against skin, as if the earth itself seeks contact. Colonial herbals prescribed mashed roots for splinters. You half expect the plants to offer first aid. Each heart-shaped leaf cradles a dewdrop, tiny lenses magnifying soil mites, performing their microscopic ballets. Pink petals furl tight, protecting saffron stamens that stain your jeans when brushed. 17th century midwives swore by their tea for sorrows of the womb, steeped blossoms, easing hearts heavier than yours. A bumblebee bumbles, its fuzzy legs powdered gold from some cousin's lavender field. You deadhead a spent bloom, the crisp snap echoing monastic gardens long paved over. Historians still argue whether these mallows grew from crusaders' seed bags or a lovelorn gardener's pocket. Your phone light reveals inner petals, veins mapping like subway lines for aphids. Victorians claimed the flowers closed before thunderstorms, their version of a weather app with better aesthetics. Crushed leaves release a green musk, part cucumber salad, part haunted greenhouse. 3 blooms cluster near a weathered marker, their stems bending toward faint runes. Tourism pamphlets say Vikings carved this stone. Experts whisper about bored Edwardian schoolboys with chisels. You resist tasting a petal, regret already fermenting in your throat like cheap wine. Shadows stretch the mallows into giants, leafy hands reaching for your shoelaces. Night air thickens with their scent, a botanical lullaby older than the keep itself. Your sleeve snags a seed pod, its cheese wheel shape spinning lazily into the dark. Somewhere, a shutter claps, your breath hitches, until you recognize the guttural coo of wood pigeons. The garden exhales, its secrets settling into your pores, alongside pollen and twilight. You edge along the keep's northern wall, rough limestone, snagging your sweater's loose threads. An arrow slit beckons, a stone mouth frozen mid-whisper. Leaning in, you taste Iron Age air, stale and metallic, like licking a forgotten suit of armor. Mist softens the distant hills, their outlines smudged charcoal on damp parchment. Your fingers graze the slit's edges, pocked by centuries of rain sharp as English longbow volleys. Speaking of, those bad boys could punch through oak doors at 200 paces. Not that you'd know. Your archery skills begin and end with darts at the Crooked Crown pub. A breeze funnels through the opening, carrying wood smoke from some reenactor's feeble campfire 2 fields over. You squint, pretending the twinned shadows on the horizon are Norman scouts riding hard for Hastings. Historians still argue whether William's archers loosed uphill or waited for Saxon shields to splinter first. Either way, someone's inbox was full of revise and resubmit parchment scrolls for decades. Your elbow jostles loose a pebble. It plummets 3 stories to clatter among thyme bushes. A woodlouse scurries across the slits, inner ledge armored like a pint-sized crusader. You half expect it to brandish a toothpick lance and demand tribute in fallen rosemary needles. Damp stone numbs your cheek as you press closer. Beyond the hills, roads vein toward what was once the busiest horse market in medieval Yorkshire, now just a BP station and a defunct Tesco Express. Funny how kingdoms rise and fall, but petrol stations stick around like stubborn ivy. Morning glories have colonized the outer wall, their blue faces tracking sunlight the archers once cursed for blinding their aim. One blooms velvet brush against your wrist, nature's version of a watch your step sign. A raven lands on the collapsed battlements, its beak glossy with stolen picnic sausage. It eyes you with the disdain of a general inspecting poorly trained infantry. You mimic its guttural caw, earning a tilt of the head that screams amateur hour. Sun warms the stone beneath your palms, its stored heat echoing blacksmiths, forges that once hammered out arrowheads. They tempered the metal with urine. You recall a fragrant process best left to historical footnotes. The slit narrows your world to a cinematic sliver, butterfly wings catching light in the middle distance, a tractor's red roof bleeding through haze. 800 years ago, this view held charging cavalry or the glint of enemy steel. Now just sheep and someone's rogue inflatable hot tub listing in a back garden. A cobweb stretches across the opening, strung between eras. You resist the urge to swipe it away. Let its architect keep pretending it's still the age of male coifs. Your neck protests as you finally step back, joints creaking louder than a drawstring on a rusted crossbow. The raven flies, its shadow rippling over time, and rubble like a reconnaissance drone. You flex your hand, palm striped with limestone's pockmarked imprint, a fleeting tattoo from ghosts who shaped this view. You kneel by the compost heap, its earthy rot softened by drifts of silver leaves. Wormhood clusters huddle here, each frond dusted like pastry dough forgotten in a baker's pantry. Your finger grazes a stem, bitterness seeps into skin pores like a disapproving librarian's glare. These plants once flavored absinthe, that belle epoque liquor that made poets see emerald fairies and or bad life choices. Banned in 1915, not for hallucinations, but because wine lobbyists needed customers sober enough to read their propaganda. The real kicker: modern tests show you'd die of alcohol poisoning long before Thujan could spark a single psychedelic vision. Sorry, Van Gogh, you just sucked at moderation. A crushed leaf releases fumes sharper than a medieval math exam. Historians still argue whether monks cultivated this for medicine or just really hated their beer's taste. The Abbey of Cluny allegedly mixed it with mercury for holy detox tonics. Let's hope their confession booths had good ventilation. You snap another stem, resin coats your nail like toxic varnish. 200 years back, this stuff lined cradles to repel fleas and possibly infants. Given its reek, your nose wrinkles. Imagine a bouquet of gasoline, burnt coffee, and regret. A beetle zigzags through the mulch, its shell iridescent as spilled oil. It avoids the wormhood entirely. Smart bug. Even the compost's resident rats stick to safer snacks. Folded chip bags, gum wrappers, last decade's kale stems. The plant's a nightclub bouncer, letting decay in, repelling all fun. Sun glints off pale leaves, aluminum foil tossed by a lazy gardener. You recall the herb's wartime role. Soldiers stuffed it in boots to mask trench foot's sweet rot stench. Imagine marching to your death with feet that smelled like a Parisian cocktail lounge. Wind stirs the silvery clumps. Their undersides flash green like tarnished coins. A 1432 medical text recommended wormhood poultices for hysterical suffocation. Translation: patriarchy's answer to women wanting basic human rights. The cure: lie down, breathe herbs, stop asking questions. Your shadow falls across the plants, they seem to recoil. Drama queens, you'd think they'd enjoy the company. They're literally named after intestinal parasites. File under careful what you Latin. A breeze carries the scent toward the keep, ghosting through arrow slits, once thick with defenders' shouts, now just tourists, sunscreen, and the tang of overpriced, heritage-branded fudge. You glance at your wormhood-stained hand, temporarily marinated in history's rejected remedies. Ants trickle past your shoe, diverting wide around the bitter stems. One pauses, antennae quivering, then bolts like you just whispered raid in its ear. Even decomposing eggshells are less controversial here. The plants everywhere once you look, colonizing cracks in the old kitchen's foundation. Some curator probably replanted it for historical accuracy. Overachiever. Meanwhile, actual medieval cabbages rot forgotten in some PhD candidate's dissertation draft. Distant chatter floats from the gift shop, someone debating the merits of herbal tea versus CBD gummies. You stifle a snort, Our ancestors ate lead paint and called it seasoning. We're all just rolling the genetic dice. A leaf drifts into your open palm, its edges serrated like a key for opening trouble. You let it fall. Let the next seeker puzzle over its peppery aftertaste, its lingering burn, like a lover's goodbye scrawled in lemon juice. Nightshade berries glint nearby, blood dark and inviting. The compost heap exhales, its breath equal parts rot and resurrection. Your shadow stretches melding with the keep's westward silhouette. Bats stitch the air above their jagged dance, erasing the day's last threads. Sunset bleeds gold through your eyelashes, the horizon swallowing light like a kid chugging flat lemonade. You've outlasted the tourists, their selfie sticks retracted, their caffeine buzzes fading into rush hour traffic. The keep's shadow licks your ankles, cool stone rising to meet the coming stars. Norman builders angled these walls west, not for sunset views, but to blind attackers with afternoon glare. Smart move, until some bright spark invented siege engines that worked post 5 p.m. Your sneaker scuffs a drainage groove carved by 7 centuries of runoff, or medieval plumbers with commitment issues. A bat swoops low, its leathery wings snapping like a forgotten umbrella in a windstorm. You freeze. It veers, dodging your head like you're the main character in its sonar video game. Score 1 for the mammal with built-in GPS. Twilight deepens, the first, stars smudging through light pollution's veil. 12 bats now know, 14 their crisscross paths, weaving an invisible net above the herb garden. Folk tales claimed they carried witches' whispers to covens. Reality. They're just here for the moths drunk on night-blooming jasmine. Your neck prickles. The keep's empty windows stare harder after dark. 374 arrow slits, give or take a few blocked by ivy. You count 6 glowing rectangles, reflections from a passing delivery van's headlights, the past and present high-fiving through tempered glass. Cool air rises from the grass, carrying the last warmth of day in its undertow. You pivot slowly, your elongated shadow pirouettes across the lawn like a drunk ballerina. The bats approve, their flight patterns shifting to match your clumsy orbit. In 1632, a watchman's log mentions devil birds swarming the garrison during a lunar eclipse. Turned out they were just feasting on a midge population boom. The garrison burned 2 carts of holy herbs trying to drive them off. Pro tip: smoke attracts bugs. Whoops, 1 bat breaks formation, zipping so close you taste the air displacement. Its echolocation clicks register somewhere between a dentist's drill and a Geiger counter. You make a mental note: bat proximity, great for adrenaline, terrible for dental anxiety. The western tower's flagpole creaks, its pulley system rusted solid when Napoleon was still in diapers. Someone tied a Tesco bag to the top last Tuesday. It flaps now, a nylon sentinel saluting the age of consumerism. The ghosts of Norman masons are face-palming from the afterlife. Darkness pools in the herb garden's corners, swallowing rosemary bushes whole. Your phone's flashlight would ruin the vibe, but man, walking into that nettle patch earlier still stings. You compromise, digging a glow-in-the-dark keychain from your pocket. It lasts 6 seconds. Progress. A bat's dropping splatters near your foot, chalky and fragrant with beetle wings. Medieval apothecaries paid good silver for guano to treat melancholic humors. Allegedly. Personally, you'd stick with therapy and a decent barista, but you do you, 13th century. Your shadow's gone, absorbed by the keep's bulk. Only your hands glow faintly in the last light, pale crabs floating in indigo tide. The bats thin out, retreating to attics where they'll gossip about your terrible echolocation skills all night. Dew forms on the Thyme, each droplet a liquid lens magnifying stems into alien forests. You crouch, inhaling air that tastes of turned earth and distant rain. Somewhere beyond the wall, a car horn blares. The keep exhales, centuries settling into its mortar like creaks in an old bed frame. You press a palm to cold limestone, still holding the sun's memory in its pores. Daytimes here belong to guides and gift shops, but sundown's got teeth and wings and an expired warranty on linear time. The last bat cartwheels into darkness, leaving you anchored between then and now, stone and sky, bug spray and bat poop. The garden holds its breath, waiting to see which way you'll step. Your heel sinks into loam, earth's sudden give betraying hidden rot. The fallen oak sprawls like a skeletal hand, roots clawing skyward where canopy once reigned. They say Norman carpenters favored local timber, built siege ladders from wood like this. Now termites write new sagas in the pulp. You crouch your knees, protesting today's third unplanned squat session. The trunk's underside yawns open, a cavern ribbed with fungal shelves. Their ochre gills quiver, breathing out spores that hover like ghostly pollen. Close your mouth, unless you fancy becoming part of the ecosystem. Moss blankets every surface, slick emerald velvet under your palm. 14th century roofers used this stuff to waterproof hovels, though your fingers come away smelling of wet dog. A centipede flees your touch, legs rippling like piano keys, played by a meth-addled composer. Go on, little guy, tell the others the giant's back. The roots form arches, nature's Gothic cathedral dripping with amber sap. You tilt your head, spotting a beer can wedged in a crevice. 1992, vintage, someone's light lunch fossilized alongside lichen. Historians still argue whether Normans preferred ale or cider, but this is purely modern sacrament. Compression gloves would have been smart. You pick splinters from your palm instead. The wood's grain twists like cursive script, decades of drought and deluge spelled in rings. A woodpecker's abandoned hole winks at you, storage nook for acorns or severed thumbs. Let's assume acorns. Dampness seeps through your jeans, fungal spores plotting their quiet uprising. Rainwater pools in bark furrows, mirror fragments, reflecting your fragmented silhouette. You half expect a carp to surface, some mutant holdover from when fish ponds fed the garrison. Instead, a mosquito lands, its proboscis tapping the surface like a tiny oil derrick. 3 mushrooms glow faintly in the shadows, foxfires blue hinting at decay's cold chemistry. Tudor herbalists believed such light could ward off witches. Spoiler, it just attracts stoned biology majors with UV flashlights. Your phone dies trying to photograph it. The universe's passive-aggressive nod to living in the moment. Soil trickles from root tendrils, each clod collapsing in slow motion. You're sitting in an inverted chandelier, earth replacing crystal, worms replacing prisms. Dig here, and you'd hit a Norman latrine's remnants, or someone's lost Fitbit. Time's funny like that, layers of filth and folly pressed into strata. A breeze funnels through the root cage, whistling against beer can and beetle alike. It carries the keep's distant chill, stone exhaling memories of mortar and menace. Your earlobe tingles, phantom sensation of a blacksmith's hammer striking 8 centuries ago. Or maybe that's just tinnitus from yesterday's metal concert. Woodless navigate your shoelace, armored pilgrims on a nylon pilgrimage. You stay statue, still marveling at their antennae's metronome sway. In 1633, a jailed poet compared himself to a woodlouse in God's boot, got him 6 more months in the stocks. Simile crimes taken seriously back then. Something crunches under your thigh, a snail shell sacrificed to poor life choices. Its spiral echoes, the oak's growth pattern, Fibonacci's wet dream smeared on your jeans. You flick it into the darkness, where it joins the circle of life's blunt recycling program. The air thickens rot and loam and something muskier. A hedgehog snuffles past, its quills dragging through leaf litter like a hairbrush through dreadlocks. It pauses, beady eyes judging your life choices before waddling into the root maze. Kindred spirits, you and the spiky introvert. Night deepens, the oak's cathedral now lit by security lights from the parking lot. Sodium vapor stains everything nuclear orange. At least the Normans had stars. You balance a pebble on the trunk's curve, adding your mark to the timeline. Future archaeologists will call it ritualistic or teenage boredom. Both, your stomach growls, an acoustic disaster in the quiet. The garrison would, supped on barley stew about now. You've got half a protein bar lint-covered from your pocket. Bon appetit. As crumbs dust the soil, a beetle claims its prize. The circle of snacks continues. Moisture beads on spider silk strands, liquid diamonds on invisible threads. One lands on your wrist cold as a widow's kiss. You shake it off, the droplet joining others nourishing mouse-ear chickweed below. Everything here's connected through water and hunger and accidental generosity. The roots creak, settling into their slow collapse. This arboreal tomb will outlast you, cellulose dissolving into future topsoil. You inhale decay's tang, mortality's musk clinging to your sinuses. Funny how rot smells like life when you're not the one dissolving. Footsteps crunch gravel in the distance. A guard's flashlight beam slices the night. You hold your breath, lichen pressed to bark, pulse thudding in your ears. The light sweeps past, illuminating your beer can relic for one glorious second. Then darkness folds back over you, the oak's cathedral doors swinging shut. The guard's footsteps fade, gravel's crunch dissolving into cricket song. You uncurl from the roots, knees popping like medieval gunpowder experiments. Moonlight guides you toward the keep's eastern wall, where shadows pool, thick as spilled ink. There, between crumbled mortar and a rotting rain barrel, clusters of berries gleam obsidian marbles dipped in leftover starlight. Nightshade, Atropa belladonna, to taxonomists, beautiful lady, with murder in her handbag. Renaissance, Italian women really did drop diluted juice in their eyes, pupils dilating like black holes, ready to swallow admirers whole. Dangerous flirtation. But hey, beauty standards have always been a dumpster fire. You crouch close enough to see dew bead on the toxic globes. Their sheen suggests plastic fruit from a Halloween store. Don't touch, don't even breathe too deep, though the leaves smell like stale tea and regret. Historians still argue whether medieval poisoners preferred nightshade over hemlock. But your money's on whatever grew closest to the castle moat. A moth flutters down, proboscis coiling like a party favor noisemaker. It lands on a berry, legs questing for nectar that isn't there. You half expect the plant to snap shut, Venus flytrap's flashy cousin. Instead, the insect stumbles off, wings powdered with your second-hand guilt. Something moves in the undergrowth. Your pulse spikes, then stalls. Just a toad nudging through dead leaves, its throat puffing like a faulty bellows. It eyes the berries with amphibian indifference. Smart. Smarter than King John's wine taster. At least Guy probably had a pension plan written in antidotes. You peer closer. The berries aren't pure black. After all, deep purple undertones whisper of wine cellars and bruises. One's split open, revealing seeds like miniature ossuary urns. 17th century herbalists claimed nightshade could unchain demons if harvested under a waning moon. You check your phone, nightshade emojis right there between the hibiscus and the eggplant. Progress. Wind riffles the leaves, their edges curl like burnt parchment. This spot never gets sun. The keep's bulk hoards daylight like a dragon, perfect for fungi and bad decisions. You spot a soda, can beside the roots, logo faded to a ghost. 1980s vintage. Someone parked here during the Cold War, sipping tab, while contemplating nuclear winter and neon legwarmers. A berry drops splatting on a flagstone. The pulp bleeds indigo. Fruit flies materialize, nature's cleanup crew in bomber jackets. You recall that Victorians trained detective dogs to sniff out nightshade in butter. Sabotage was the gluten-free trend of 1890. The dogs got extra steak scraps. Everyone wins except the assassinated uncles. Your shadow stretches across the wall, crooked halo around the plant. Easy to imagine cloaked figures here, whispered oaths, and tinctures stirred with bone. Maybe a disgruntled nun brewing divine punishment in a honey jar. Modern folks just have Yelp reviews for vengeance. Leaning closer, you spot bite marks, tiny teeth etching crescent moons into the fruit. Rodent or reckless chipmunk. Darwinism in action. The berries sway, their stems creaking like rusty hinges. Pluck one, and you join a queue of fools stretching back to Roman banquet cheek pinchers. A bat swoops overhead, wing beats softer than a librarian's disapproval. Its echolocation pings off the keep, mapping your skull's contours. You freeze, playing statue. The berries wait, always waiting. Queen Anne's lace might stab you with passive aggression, but Nightshade's the quiet girl who'll burn your house down. Dirt grinds under your heel as you retreat. No oath sworn here, just silent recognition of humanity's knack for touching forbidden things. The plant shrinks in your periphery, shriveled guardian of the wall's secrets. You'll revisit it in nightmares, probably around 3 a.m. when forbidden snacks and regret hit hardest. The moon climbs, washing the garden in bone blue light. You rub a leaf's velvet dust between thumb and forefinger, poison's aftershave. A dog barks far off, sound splintering against the keep's flanks. Your hands smell like metal and possibility. Wash them soon, or don't. The Nightshade watches, indifferent as a prince with a well-stocked dungeon. The moon bleeds into peach dawn, honeysuckle trumpets open with sticky yawns. Their nectar glistens, tiny amber puddles beckoning breakfast crowds. You lean close, scent of powdered sugar and violin resin. Underworld bakery vibes. The Victorians soaked handkerchiefs in this perfume, sneezed through opera nights, pretending it wasn't hay fever. Ants march single file up a stem, living straws sipping dawn's sweet fund. Each abdomen swells, translucent sacks of gold. You count 12 workers before realizing it's the same 3 on loop, carry, dump, repeat. Office job of the insect world. A ladybug hitchhikes, its polka dot Uber rolling to a blossom's edge. Fingers hover near the blooms, flower lips curve like Victorian syringe needles. Suck the nectar base, safe, if you avoid the bitter white sap near the stem. Romans boiled petals into garum substitutes, anchovy-free fish sauce for picky patricians. Historians still argue whether that counts as culinary innovation or a pantry crime. Twilight clings to the eastern wall, honeysuckle's glow intensifies as shadows retreat. Each trumpet wears a dewdrop ring. You recall 9th century, monks chewing stems to sweeten prayers, their manuscripts stinking of mildew and floral halitosis. Modern perfumers harvest at moonrise, claiming the oil captures lunar femininity. Press releases omit the part about mosquito swarms. A wasp dive bombs the buffet, iridescent wings clipping your earlobe. It belly flops into a blossom, legs pedaling air. Drama queen, Honeysuckle pollen sticks to its back yellow saddlebags for cross-country pollination. You half expect a tiny "how's my driving" sticker. The hedge vibrates, sparrows brawl in the next courtyard. A severed feather floats down, quill tip sinking into nectar. Beech trees rustle, their gossip drowned out by bees. Speaking of those ants are unionizing. One taps your shoelace with its antennae, negotiating hazard pay for human interference. Sunlight hits the highest blossoms. Translucent petals become stained glass. You squint, spotting seed pods shaped like peppercorn grenades. Crush one, dozens of bitter pills spill. Tudor mothers stuffed them in sachets, warding off plague miasmas and nosy neighbors. Didn't work for either. Your shadow stretches west, thinning as noon approaches. Honey drips down a stem, caught mid-fall by a spider's silk. Breakfast delivery. The ant convoy reroutes, mandibles twitching like disgruntled commuters. Soap, opera-level tension. A breeze combs through the vines, sending two blooms knocking together. Woodwind improvisation. You catch a phrase, maybe Danny Boy, in F-sharp minor. Blame sleep deprivation. Squirrels use honeysuckle bark for nest insulation. 5-star rodent yurts. Pollen coats your sleeve, yellow dust on black cotton. Renaissance painters used this pigment for saintly halos. You swipe your arm, sending golden motes swirling. Whoop, congrats, you're a budget deity. Metal clangs beyond the wall, gardeners shovel meeting rock. The ants freeze, workers forming a shield wall around their syrup bearer. Danegeld in the suburbs. Your phone buzzes, vibration topples a drunk bumblebee. It writes itself, buzzes a complaint in iambic pentameter. Fingertips find a twisted trunk, bark peeling like cinnamon scrolls. Roots buckle the flagstones, Victorian, paving versus botanical ambition. Honeysuckle wins every time. You kneel spy a coke can fossilized in the undergrowth. 90s logo. Someone's mixtape soundtrack still trapped in the aluminum. Leaves bruise as you brush past, releasing green apple vapor. Medieval laundresses tossed stems into rinse water, Febreze, for chainmail undershirts. Imagine Lancelot smelling like a bath and body works. Shade retreats, sun licks your neck. The blooms wilt slightly, trumpets curling into fist bumps. Come back tonight, they whisper. The party's better after dark. You snap a photo, flash, erasing the magic. One last ant struggles with a nectar droplet, twice its size. You root for the little guy, then remember their invasive Argentinian fire ants. Mixed feelings. The wasp returns, bullying the worker off its prize. Nature's middle manager. Retreating, you nearly trip on a root shaped like a cursive L graffiti from the plant kingdom. The honeysuckle rustles, vines knitting over the path behind you. No free returns. Church bells toll noon, each strike flattening the fragrance. Your pockets sag with stolen petals. They'll crumble by evening, ghost confetti in your jeans. Your shadow merges with the keep's westward sprawl as noon fades. Granite, still warm from its centuries of sunbathing. The high wall here bows outward, strategist's balcony, for dead generals squinting at valleys. You scrape moss from a merlin, its curve designed to shield archers from English longbows. Norman masons recycled Roman bricks. See those pockmarks. Legionnaires, graffiti hiding under lichen paisley. Beneath the wall, meadow grass rolls green and deceptively soft, perfect cover for armor-piercing caltrops in 1066. Your boot prods a mound, the ghost of a watchtower's foundation humps the earth. Archaeologists found horse teeth here, still clamped around a Norman bit. Farriers, receipt dated 1123 lists, iron, for Duke's favorite destrier, plus 16 chicken eggs. Medieval HR reimbursements were weird. Wind ripples the grass, exposing a flint arrowhead wedged in limestone. It winks, stubborn, outlasting the hand that knocked it. You crouch counting 11 battlements along the surviving wall. Modern surveys say 12. Historians still argue whether the missing one fell to siege engines or a fumbled tax ledger. Your palm flat against stone drinks residual warmth, each block dragged here by oxen dead 800 winters. They anointed the mortar with wine and honey, sacrifice to calculus-illiterate gods of geometry. Blueprints burned in a siege. The east wing's angle stays 1 degree off. Only pigeons notice. A cloud mirrors the keep's outline, shadow battalions marching over buttercups. You spot a depression in the turf, too round for animal nests. Tudor reenactors dug latrine pits here during that rainy 99 festival. Artifact theft spiked when porta-potties overflowed. Sun glints off something chrome in the distance, a tour bus crawling through the valley. You squint, transposing war horses over diesel engines. Norman scouts used this vantage to time smoke signals. 3 puffs meant attack. 4 meant Robert forgot the battering ram again. Kneeling, you brush aside dandelions, exposing a cobblestone scar. Cavalry charges wore grooves into roads. Medieval asphalt's pothole problem. Rats' nests here yield arrowheads, belt buckles, and one perfectly preserved gingerbread man. Carbon dated 1185, raisin eyes intact. The wind shifts, carrying barbecue smoke from a village pub. Meat scent drapes over meadow thyme, carnivorous anachronism. You picture campfires roasting stags stolen from royal forests. Park rangers didn't exist, yet just guys with spears and trust issues. A ladybug lands on the wall, its shell blushing deeper, red as clouds thin. Biologists insist beetles don't change color. Tell that to the crows who avoid biting ripe ones. You flick it gently, watching it helicopter toward buttercups. Warmth leaches from the stones, daylight banking its fires. You trace mortar lines with a fingertip rough poetry in lime and sand. 800 summers baked here, 800 winters cracked the verse. Reconstruction plans from 1743 proposed pink plaster and cheerful gargoyles. Thank God for budget cuts. Grass rustles, a rabbit freezes mid-nibble at the wall's base. Its nose twitches, calculating your threat level. Mongoose-free. Since 1302, they traded pest control for falconry hobbies. The creature bolts, flashing a cotton tail at your urban incompetence. You peel lichen from a stone, revealing a faded tally mark. Worker's signature. Prisoner's calendar. Saxon insult carved post-conquest. Even lasers can't decide. Below, the meadow yawns, swallowing echoes of shield clashes and tea-stall laughter. Your phone buzzes. The valley's cellular tower, cosplaying as a pine tree. Reception's patchy where William's siege tents sagged. 2 texts arrive. You okay? And a pharmacy ad. Normans shrugged off malaise with leeches and mead. You tap a type-ridden fine autocorrect, mocks your mortal brevity. Ants swarm a discarded crisp bag, salt and vinegar NATO summit. They hoist crumbs skyward, tiny banners of conquest. You crush the plastic pocketing litter, they'll mourn as Ragnarok. 3 hawks spiral overhead, riding thermals once thick with catapult debris. Their shadows stitch the meadow black thread through green fabric. Dirt under your nails, smells of iron and rain, the keep's perfume since mortar first dried. You lean out, pretending the wall still crests at your back. Safety inspectors would have red-tagged this place by 1200. The valley blurs, pixelating into hedgerows and housing tracts. Blink, haycarts morph into hatchbacks. Double bill history. The last warmth fades from the stone sunlight, retreating to France. Your shadow detaches, one final sentry descending the slope. Grass springs upright behind you, erasing footprints as the meadow breathes. Your fingers trail along freezing bronze. Each ripple of corrosion tells a weather-beaten story. The bell hangs motionless, its clapper fused to verdigris skin like a tongue glued to winter iron. Norman founders cast this giant in 1158. 47 donkeys hauled copper from mines now swallowed by motorway roundabouts. Tap it with your knuckle. The thud vibrates up your arm. A church's dead heartbeat. Rainwater pools in the bell's throat. A miniature ecosystem of mosquito larvae and stolen sky. Leaning close, you catch your warped reflection nose, elongated mythical creature from a bestiary's smudged page. 16th century records mention a monk who polished the bell daily, his robes stained permanent green from oxidized ambition. They buried him with copper coins on his eyes, hedging spiritual bets. Sunset stripes the metal with tangerine. Your shadow merges with the bell's elephantine curve. 3 bullet holes, pocket's southern flank. Napoleonic target practice. Missed the memo about historical preservation. Guides claim a farmhand once climbed inside during a storm emerged deaf, but fluent in the language of thunder. Liar or prophet? Toss a pebble, it plinks against the bell's belly. No divine transmission today. Kneeling, you brush moss from the inscription. Fulgura, Frango. Scholars say it means I break lightning, medieval posturing against storms. Conspiracy blogs insist it's code for repelling UFOs. Your nail catches on a hex mark, crude attempt to mute the bell's voice. Historians still argue whether villagers feared its sound, attracted plagues, or awoke something under the keep. The chain's remnant dangles, one rusted link clinging to sanity. Normandy's bells rang for 3 days straight. When William conquered England, this one stayed silent. Guilt, strategic ambiguity. You press your ear to cold metal, imagine the hum of 1,000 dead masses. A spider descends, its silk harness snaps, a silent pratfall onto your shoulder. Twilight activates the bats, their sonar pinging off the bell's curves. Your phone flashlight reveals a graffiti layer cake, Tudor initials, WWII regiment numbers, someone's Pokémon sticker. Peel back time, smell the furnace that birthed this behemoth. Workers drank ale thickened with powdered marble, the original protein shake. Footsteps approach, a groundskeeper rattling keys. He nods at the bell. Last time it rang proper. 1945. Nazis retreating, locals went ham with sledgehammers. His laugh cracks. Course, that's bollocks. Real story. Some idiot tried stealing it for scrap, dropped it on a cow. You glance downhill, no bovine ghosts visible. Moonlight bleaches the verdigris, patina glowing like shallow seawater. The air tastes of impending rain and diesel from the A12. You chip off a corrosion flake. It crumbles, arsonist's ash from 1,000 extinguished sounds. Reconstructionists dream of restoring the bell's voice. But silence protects more secrets than noise. Wind threads through the crack, splitting the bell's waist. A whistling nursery rhyme, missing half its notes. You count 19 pigeons nesting in the belfry, original gargoyle replacements on union break. A feather drifts, tickling your wrist, prelude to a prophecy you'll misinterpret for years. The groundskeeper's radio sputters, static harmonizing with the breeze. He mutters about closing time. You take 3 steps back, viewing the bell as conquerors and refugees once did an upside-down crown. Your shadow stretches, arm elongated, reaching to pluck this metallic fruit. Hunger thrumming 8 centuries unfed. Final touch, press a penny into the moss at the base. Let future detectors debate your offering. Tribute, trash, blood money for the bell's lost song. The path back spirals, darkness pooling in your footprints. Behind, the bell's void yawns, swallowing the punchline of the joke you almost told. Kneeling ruins the spider's work. A dew-strung chandelier fractures across marjoram blooms. Their tiny petals cling to your knees, pink freckles on denim. This stretch of path smells like Thanksgiving stuffing. If your aunt swapped chaos for botanist precision, Norman cooks once rubbed pork with these leaves. 800 years later, your stomach growls solidarity. One step forward crumbles oregano-like flavor underfoot. Medieval brides stuffed marjoram in their shoes, quaint tradition or blister prevention. You pluck a sprig, it's citrusy, musk sharpens as twilight bleeds into the garden. Historians still argue whether these herbs were piety or pest control. Monks debated both while scratching flea bites. A ladybug hitchhikes your sleeve. Its spots glow like emergency beacons. 12 steps ahead, the path kinks around hawthorn sentinels, their thorns already plotting against your jacket. Groundskeeper pamphlets claim marjoram-repelled witches. Conveniently ignore, it also flavors half of Italy's pasta sauces. Your shadow merges with a rosemary bush, becoming a thorny Rorschach blot. Downhill, traffic drones on the A12. This hillside hums with drunk bees. 16th century herbalists prescribed marjoram tea for broken hearts. Chamomile's dramatic cousin. Crush a leaf, your fingers stick together. Nature's glue gun malfunction. Moonlight unveils carved initials, JT plus AR 1673 etched by lovers or bored shepherds. The spider rebuilds its web mandala, disrupted by your existential crisis. Norman tax records mention a herbwoman paid 5 chickens annually. Proto-pharmacist or poultry-loving quack. Wind rifles through marjoram, releasing peppery notes that sting your sinuses. You recall pandemic sourdough attempts. This garden witnessed worse fails. That bumblebee from section 4 bumbles past, still overweight with pollen, still avoiding your questions. 3 fireflies blink, Morse code skeptics. Groundskeeper folklore says marjoram thrives where soldiers fell botanists cite well-drained limestone. A root tangles your shoe, nature's passive-aggressive clinginess. You kneel again, palms imprinting loam that's outlasted dynasties, plagues, and 2 separate Y2K panics. The spider vanishes. Its abandonment issues now your problem. Night air thickens with bergamot and impending rain. 8 slugs commence their slow motion, heist up a bell tower wall. Oceans, 11 meets gardening hell. Distracted, you step on Thyme. Its protest crumbles to confetti. Ravens mock from the keep feathered comedians with a medieval laugh track. Pocketing marjoram feels wrong, poaching from ghosts who seasoned mutton here before forks existed. Headlights sweep the valley, briefly gilding the herb garden into a stage set. Your phone dies, mercifully. That language of thunder bell still sulks downhill, vibrating with unsung anthems. You inhale deeply, lungs filling with spices. And who you might have been in 1158. A moth dive bombs your ear, first aerial assault since the airport. You retreat toward yew trees, their branches braided by centuries of nosy gardeners. Behind, marjoram tightens its olfactory grip, as if the earth itself won't let you leave unscented. Charred timbers protrude like broken ribs, their blackened ends still whispering of roast venison and mead spills. Your shoes kick up ash, ghostly dandelion fluff clinging to denim. Norman feasts here could last 40 days. Probable exaggeration, or medieval influencer flex. A sparkly fleck catches moonlight, melted lead from a long-drained wine goblet. You crouch, fingertips hovering over soot-stained cobbles. 13th century kitchen ledgers mention hazelwood spits, turning 30 pigs daily math. that breaks modern diet apps. Archaeologists found fish bones here from seas 100 miles away, luxuries hauled by donkey carts, groaning with ice and aristocratic demands. Wind riffles through the rubble, carrying a phantom whiff of burnt honey glaze. Someone's forgotten dessert screaming into the void. Ash swirls, forming a helmeted figure lunging at nothing. Your breath hitches before it dissipates. Groundskeeper gossip claims bonfire embers reignite during thunderstorms. Science says iron deposits. But try telling that to the night. 3 stones radiate residual warmth. Centuries-old hearth, still cosplaying functional. Historians still argue whether the fire began in the kitchen or the chaplain's diced in. Arsonist clerics make great tavern tailies. Your shadow stretches across charcoal grooves. War game, etchings from a garrison board between sieges. A beetle trundles through cinders, its shell gleaming like a micronite's armor. You recall Norman laws fined cooks for underseasoned boar. Gastronomic justice before Yelp. Moonlight picks out a half-melted hinge might once swung shut on someone's final argument. Sudden laughter echoes, or maybe just whined through you branches behind you. 8 bats swoop in formation, their ballet contradicting your flying rodent's take. Charcoal smudges your palm, streaky proof you've touched the keep's oldest wound. That persistent moth from section 28 alights on a scorched beam, wings fanning ash into a mini tornado. Tudor renovators stuffed fireplaces with chicken wire, avian security system, or poultry-themed interior design. Your phone flashlight fails, chastised by the vibe. You pocket a pottery shard, ragged edge, glinting umber and cobalt. School kids in the 1800s used this rubble for dungeon games. No OSHA back then. Lichen crawls over a collapsed archway, patiently digesting someone's chisel marks from the year of our Lord, 1217. Wind gusts, ash stings your eyes like particulate nostalgia. Ravens mock from the intact East Tower, feathered landlords judging your trespass. A creak overhead suggests rafters still shifting. 800 years of structural regret settling into the hill. Dew forms on carbonized wood, tears the keep refuses to shed publicly. You imagine serving wenches flirting with blacksmiths. Here, workplace hazards before HR existed. The moth spirals upward, joining stars that watched this blaze reduce pedigrees to cinders. 3 fireflies blink Morse code for go home. Your lungs taste of campfire and epics, double IPA of time travel. Norman tax records noted this fire as divine temperance. Accountants speak, for we're not paying for that. Lightning stutters beyond the valley, too distant for thunder. Ash patterns shift like chess pieces, avoiding checkmate. You turn, marjorum's scent tugging you back toward living things. The moth dissolves into darkness. Another specter, rehired for tomorrow's haunting gig. Sun-warmed limestone presses into your back, its stored heat mimicking living flesh. A time cluster tickles your ear, nature's clumsy attempt at ASMR. Workers mixed crushed Roman tiles into this mortar, Norman flecks over conquered civilizations. Your pulse syncs with the keep's hidden rhythms, centuries compressed into quartz. Dew soaks your jeans where stone meets soil. 10th century monks wrote of gardens breathing at dawn claims modern botanists dismiss as poetic license. Yet your exhale swirls with marjoram pollen, green gold motes borrowed from crusader-era recipes. Breeze stirs lavender heads, their bobbing agreement almost conversational. A ladybug traverses your kneecap crimson shell, outshining the English crown jewels. Tudor kids played heretic versus bishop here, using snail shells as proxy armies. You squint at mica flecks, in the stone each glint, a trapped sundial's wink. Nettle stings prickle your palm, souvenir from Section 22's Bat Vigil. Historians still argue whether these herb beds supplied Edward I's dysentery remedies, or his mistress, perfumes. Ants file past your shoe, tiny legions ignoring empires rising and crumbling above. Your thumbnail traces a mason's chisel mark, the groove outlasting his name, and funeral hymns. Nightshade berries glisten nearby, their toxicity unaffected by castle fires or TikTok trends. Lean closer. Stone exhales limestone dust with a scent like wet coins. Twilight softens the keep's jagged silhouette. Workers once hauled millstone grit from quarries cursed by water nymphs, or so payroll records claim. Your phone buzzes, an Uber notification shattering the 13th century's job. Graffiti winks from a shadowed ledge. WT 1583 and a crude phallus. Archaeologists found plum pits in the moat, snack remnants from a siege's intermission. Your laugh startles a wren. Its scolding chirps echo off walls built for dragon attacks. Damp seeps through your jacket, medieval HVAC, sucked even in summer. That persistent raven glares from the gatehouse, feathery bouncer, debating your parking karma. You press harder against the stone maybe osmosis can transfer 8 centuries of peasant gossip. Musky valerian overpowers the whiff of your sunscreen. Norman herbalists prescribed its roots for hysterical suffocations, probably medieval mansplaining in Latin. Your calf cramps protest the historical immersion, demanding 21st century ergonomics. A drone winds overhead, some influencer violating airspace for the gram. Iron Age Britain's thought, standing stones swallowed sunlight to spit out crops. You're living their airborne review. Shadows bleed across the herb garden, night's inkwell tipping over. Your spine registers every rock cleft human pumice stone. Groundskeeper gossip says full moons wake stone saints from the west wall. Currently, they're fashionably late. Cicadas rev their engines, substitute minstrels for tonight's mead-free revelry. Pebbles indent your palm, temporary fossils of your visit. The 1851 Great Exhibition displayed this keep's blueprints as cautionary decor next to flushing toilets. Dry grass pricks your neck, nature's passive-aggressive 5-star Yelp review. Starling murmurations twist overhead, living smoke, rewriting the day's last bullet points. Someone buried Anglo-Saxon buttons near the rosemary bush, tribute or trash. You'll never know. Archaeology's greatest hits album skips again. Clouds mimic marble, veins above the broken bell tower. Tudor nurses wore Valyrian sachets to endure Henry VII's tantrums. Original workplace aromatherapy. Your eyelids droop, time collaging centuries like a drunk scrapbooker. The stone's warmth fades, a grandfather clock winding down. Night-blooming catchfly releases its sugar-dusted scent, moth cocaine. Your legs regain sensation, pins and needles doing the electric slide through muscle. One firefly pulses where the plague pit maps end. Victorian mediums held seances here, charged extra for Norman soldier encounters. Your kneecap pops upright, bones rebellion against romantic poetry settings. Blackbird's song dissolves the last of your agenda. That raven finally flaps off, slyly gorgeous as a wool tapestry's villain. You pocket a pebble, petrified Cheeto of the ages. Dew seeps into your socks, Saxon tears or careless sprinklers. The keep sighs through cracked windows, lungs filled with owl feathers and forgotten ballads. Stars pirate the last warmth from the stones, celestial shoplifters, fleeing dawn's security guards. Sun-warmed limestone cradles your spine, its borrowed heat lingering like a drowsy embrace. Time brushes your temple, green whispers from forgotten hedgerows. 10th century mortar clings to Roman rubble, conquerors building atop conquerors. Your breath slows, quartz in the walls hums subsonic lullabies. Damp earth seeps through fabric, cool counterpoint to the stone's fading warmth. Medieval pollen drifts in your exhalations, crusader spices meeting SPF 30. Lavender sways, nodding assent to unspoken truths. A ladybug hesitates on your wrist, its carapace gleaming like Saxon mead. Mica fragments wink through twilight, mineral constellations older than prayers. Your palm still tingles, nettles farewell kiss from moonlit vigils. Ant highways divert around your shoe, insect diplomats avoiding human affairs. Chisel marks whisper under your thumb, craftsmen's signatures dissolving into stone. Nightshade berries glimmer defiant against centuries and smartphone glow. Twilight blurs the keep's edges, merging battlements with star-flecked sky. Crushed Valyrian numbs your thoughts, medieval Xanax for imagined ailments. Cicadas drone buzzing through ballads older than their wings. Your pebble souvenir rests heavy, a pocket-sized relic. Starlings swirl, ink blots dissolving tomorrow's to-do lists. The raven departs, shadow melting into deeper shadow. Dew becomes a second skin. Stones exhale memories of masons' lunches, rye bread, and gossip. Your knees straighten, protesting the pull of history's gravity. One firefly blinks where plague walls crumble. Night-blooming flowers, sweet the dark as sugared secrets meant for moths. Your sigh sinks with the keep's own breath, limestone lungs deflating. Horizon pales, Stars relinquish stolen warmth. You rise, unearthing your imprint from the earth. The garden holds your shape briefly, then folds itself into dawn.